All right, welcome back to the IMNerd podcast. I'm your host Freeway, and I'm here with my co-host Kenny.
Yep.
And today we have the amazing Spider Cam joining us again as a special guest. So he was featured all the way back when No Way Home came out at the end of 2021, and he is the biggest Spider-Man fan that I know, a comic book fan as well, and one of the people who genuinely knows a lot about Spider-Man. So I figured why not have him back on the show to talk about what could be the best Spider-Man movie of all time, and across the Spider-Verse. I was going to say Into the Spider-Verse, but honestly, the whole trilogy, because now we know that it is in fact going to be a trilogy. This is one of the most insane movies I've ever seen in my life, and I don't even know where to begin without giving it its flowers.
I guess I want to begin, since you already talked about the fact that we now know it's a trilogy. I just want to, I guess, quickly get out of the way because I can't stop thinking about it. I was in the fucking movie theater, okay? The movie's like hitting a crescendo.
Yes.
And I was like, I know that this is from what I understand, the longest animated movie made like by Americans. It's like longer than any other animated movie. I was like, man, this is long, and I don't understand how they're going to wrap all this up.
Me too.
Like they can't. I was like, they can't possibly wrap all this up. And then it's like building. You feel the building, and if you've watched any anime that you've been really into, it felt like, oh, I'm getting to the end of an anime episode, and it's going to go like, doom, to be continued, and then I'm going to have to wait. And I was like, but luckily, this is a movie, and I don't have to wait for that. I'm going to see oh, wait a minute. Oh
Yeah.
shit! It says to be continued.
When I tell you,
I thought you was getting all of that in one sitting. Hell no,
bro. I couldn't believe. I looked over at Connie, and we were just looking at each other like, I cannot fucking believe.
how crowded was your theater?
Get...
How crowded was it?
My theater actually wasn't that crowded because I saw it yesterday. It's now been out for over 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been out for a while.
And I saw it for the last showing of that day. So the preview started at 9:30. The movie started at 10.
Yep. So there was. Yeah, it wasn't really a lot of people.
The theater was half. I would say it was half full.
Okay.
Like it was half capacity. So there was people. There was definitely people in there.
Yeah,
but it wasn't packed. It wasn't
right.
Yeah, but there was definitely people in there.
Opening weekend, obviously the movie theater was seat to seat. Everything is filled to the brim. When I tell you that the ending of this movie gagged the entire fucking theater that I was sitting in, literally everyone in my theater, including me, was like, "No fucking way, bro!" Literally out loud, that was my exact response when I saw To Be Continued. I literally
couldn't
said,
believe it.
No fucking way, bro.
I think when y'all see like Infinity War, that guy got the same thing. So you know, come on. I think it's the year of the part 2s or the part 3 rather. So it's like part 1.
I'm with you, but here's the thing: Infinity War, I think by design, it was announced.
Yeah, it was.
Before Infinity War came out that there was going to be a sequel to it, right? So everybody knew going into Infinity War there was going to be a next part to it. Now, I don't know if that was the case for this movie, but as far as I know, going into it, I can't believe even 2 weeks later, it didn't get spoiled for me. Nobody said, oh my God, this Spider-Verse trilogy is going to be amazing. Like, I heard none of that.
It didn't get spoiled for me.
So going into this movie, I did not.
Behaving.
Oh man, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
I do pride myself on curating my timelines on both Instagram and Facebook to be virtually spoiler free. I have definitely had a little scare here and there for other things where I've had to hide pages, because what I don't like is that Facebook, they take their algorithm and they say you like anime, so we're going to recommend this anime page, and the post that they'll recommend to me will be like, these are all 6 of the upper moons, and it'll just be blatantly a picture of the 6 upper moons from Demon Slayer, and I'm like, bro, I have to not only hide this, but I'm super annoyed because I've seen all of their silhouettes from the anime like early on, but now I blatantly just seen a picture of all of them. And it's just like a quick glance of it. Like, I don't stare at it. I glance at it, then I click the top 3 little dot johns and I just hide it. But then I'm just super annoyed that, like, God damn it. Like, I definitely caught a flash of somebody I wasn't supposed to see. The good thing is when I do that, I have a really bad memory. So like, I'll see an image of something that I wasn't supposed to see, and then I'll like try to block it as hard as I can. I'll hide the post, then say I don't like this content, so that Facebook knows, like, do not recommend me shit like this again. And then I just kind of forget. Like, I literally, like, for example, I could not tell you before this arc started of Demon Slayer, I'm gonna get off in this in a second, but I couldn't tell you what the number 5 and number 4 look like at all before this season started. I had no idea, even though I technically at some point in time I saw an image of all of them. I could not tell you from memory what number 4 and number 5 look like, literally at all. But yeah, I didn't get spoiled for Spider-Man, and I'm super duper happy that I went in thinking that it was just a sequel to the first movie. I really didn't have any expectations. So the first one was amazing. Sequels typically aren't as good as the beginning of something is very rare. But when I noticed that when sequels do come out and they're good, they tend to be outrageously good. Think of The Dark Knight, for example. So in this case, I just kind of went in with zero expectations. And when I tell you, I was literally blown away. Like, actually, the entire movie had me emotional. It was very like the cultural feeling of it, because Miles is obviously Puerto Rican and black. His mom is Puerto Rican, his dad is black. And then there's just like this whole thing with ethnic people going on. You had Spider-Punk, you had Issa Rae's character, just a lot of stuff that I really resonated with. And the whole living your life where you can only tell people like half of who you are it honestly hit home. I don't know, it was very good, like very, very well done.
I did have a question for both of y'all. To go off your point, how sequels can be better than the original. Like the original as an origin, if you look at Dark Knight, if you look at Captain America, if you look at
Winter Soldier, good example.
Even Terminator 1.
Yeah.
It's just like we're gonna get this origin out the way and then we're gonna skyrocket with the sequel.
Yeah.
And then make it exceed all expectations. T2 is still one of the best sci-fi movies of all time. It's just like Winter Soldier is still top 3 Marvel movie of all time.
Winter Soldier is insane.
And then
I think Winter Soldier was the first of the MCU that I was like, oh, this is the next tier up.
Yeah.
Like, this movie is like, it's the first one that's decidedly better than basically all the ones before it.
But this movie kind of broke the rule. It's just like the first movie was spectacular for lack of a better.
It really was.
Good voice acting, good animation, good story, great. And then this one just like, we're gonna break the rule and just go further up than that. And then it did a lot. Just like we're going to hit home with all these cultural aspects and just like transverse destiny. I mean, for lack of a better term, that's what they did. But yeah,
I think it was really good. I also think it's funny because I ended up seeing it. I was going to end up seeing it on Father's Day, but that didn't work out. But I saw it the day after Father's Day. But in watching the movie, it's actually a pretty great Father's Day movie too. Like, if you have to watch it on Father's Day, it actually, because like that was in my mind at the time, it actually is a pretty fucking awesome Father's Day movie. Like how there's always like different holiday movies. That's a movie where like if you wanted to every Father's Day watch it with your dad, like
I didn't think about that obviously
until pull out and watch with their dad. Yeah,
I didn't think about that until you said it. But now that you said it, and I just watched it again before this podcast, literally. So it has a lot to do with his relationship with his father and how a lot of the times he's not really there for his dad. And there's emotional scenes where his dad's giving a speech about when he's first announced that he's going to be the captain of the police department that he's in. And Miles is just blatantly late. He shows up super late. He's supposed to be the one bringing the cakes. His dad makes this crazy speech and it's very emotional. He's like, "And to my son," and he pauses for a second. His wife looks at him. She kind of like shakes her head slightly to let him know he's not here. And then he says, "Well, to my son, you're the reason I do everything that I do." And it was a very real speech. Like whoever wrote the script for this movie, everything that was said sounded super real. Like all the conversations just seemed like actual conversations that a teenage boy would have with his parents, down to the part where his mom said that one corny line and he was like, "No one my age says those words in that order." Like I love that. Like everything about it just seemed, because your parents definitely try to use the slang that they hear us saying when we were teenagers and stuff, and they always fuck it up real bad. But it's just, I don't know, I loved so many things about it. Like, okay, so to go to really close to the beginning of the movie, there was a scene where he is being expected in the like parent teacher conference thing. They're talking with his advisor for college and they're like, "I know he's a sophomore, but we want to get a head start on it." And he's fighting Spot and dealing with that. And his parents are talking about him and they're like, he's got an A in this grade, he's got an A- in this grade, and then they're like, he's got a B in Spanish. And his Puerto Rican mom, she snaps her finger and a little Puerto Rican like flag literally pops up on the screen. It's like super quick. And she's like, "Puto, how do you got like a fucking, you got this grade in Spanish? Like, how's that?" He's like, "No, mommy, like I missed a couple of classes or whatever." And so
Slipper was about to come off right there.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good. And then there was another part where his dad, he got happy because he got an A in some class. He's like, he takes after his dad. He takes after his uncle.
He takes after his uncle. Yeah. And then when they said that he doesn't show up to class or whatever,
like,
and he goes,
"Oh, he takes after his uncle."
Takes after his uncle.
It was so good. Also, one of the funniest parts to me was when the advisor was like, she was like, "That's your story. You're a struggling family." And the dad was like, "Well, we own a floor in Brooklyn. I don't know about struggling." Like he was like, "I don't know about all that. Like you ain't gonna put no struggling on me."
And then they're like a struggling immigrant family. And then she was like the
I'm
mom
from
was like,
Puerto
"Well,
Rico."
Puerto Rico's a territory in the United States."
Yeah.
So like
Yeah, and he was like, "You're struggling." The dad was like, "We own a floor in Brooklyn." Like, I don't know about struggle. He's like, "I'm also being promoted to captain in like 2 days." That part was so funny. Okay, so I guess that's one of the things I want to talk about. This movie was funny, but not in a cheesy, corny Marvel movie way. Like, it was genuinely just really, really good jokes the entire time. Every time I laughed, I couldn't control myself. Like, they were genuinely good jokes that didn't have me staring at the screen like, dear God, this is so corny. It was so funny.
I'll say this too. I think, especially in Spider, like I'm so much more tolerant for jokes and quips in Spider-Man. Not that, and that said, they weren't bad anyway. But
Yeah.
the point is, I'm so much more tolerant to jokes and quips in Spider-Man because that's Spider-Man's character. Whereas in some of the MCU films, like when Captain America is telling quips, or like the Hulk, it's like what? Or Doctor Strange and like the fate of the multiverse, and he's like quipping. It's like what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
But Spider-Man, it makes sense because he's kind of like that's his whole character.
Yeah.
He's always telling jokes and quips and all the situations he's in.
Even if you watch No Way Home, just like all three of them, just like struggling for their life to fight this fucking Rose Gallery,
Yeah.
and just like, oh no, you're great, guy, you're great. Just like they all got it. They all, no matter how you rank the Spider-Mans, whether it be Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield, they all had the comedic aspect.
Yep.
And it's thanks for the script also, and them also portraying the scripts just like their own way. Toby's a older Spider-Man, and then go down the line, and they're all able to get their quips out in their own fashion.
Yeah.
So even No Way Home, and then Miles can just do it no problem for the situations that he is, and even with his parents or Gwen or just like any situation with whatever villain they're fighting, even from across the Spider-Verse to Into the Spider-Verse.
So speaking of them being funny, they made a whole point about this in a movie, and there's a lot of theories circulating about the next movie, and I think that some of them are interesting. So I figured this is a good opportunity to talk about one of them. So the character Miguel O'Hara, who is basically the captain of all of the Spider Society, there was a point in the movie, and I didn't notice this the very first time. Maybe I did, but I saw it, like you said, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago now. And when I watched it again, like an hour ago, there was a scene where Miles blatantly says, no, not Miles, Peter Parker with the baby. He says to him, you're so serious, you're not even funny. All of us are funny. And so there are theories that Miguel is actually like the villain, like the real villain, and that he is not really who he says he is, because he says that Miles is like the first anomaly, but there's suspicion that he's actually an anomaly. And if you think about it, he's a vampire, clearly, right? Like he injects himself with a serum. He has sharp teeth. He has claws. I think that when Miles first saw him, I'm pretty sure he said to him, well, you have like claws and stuff like that. Are you even Spider-Man?
Yeah, that was when they were fucking like climbing up the train.
Yeah.
He was like, what the? He was like, are you even Spider-Man?
So
like,
there's a lot of little things throughout the movie, and I noticed this the second time I watched it, that are kind of hinting at Miguel being very abnormal from everyone else. In fact, Miguel says himself when he first meets him, I'm not like the other Spider-Men. I don't always like what I have to do. So there's like a lot of hints. Yeah, there's a lot of hints that Miguel is probably not actually who he's pretending to be. He gave us this whole like catastrophe event that happened with him where he ruined an entire verse by pretending to be himself that died in that verse. So he found the universe where he was happy and he had a family and everything. And
as far as I understand, that was the original Peter Parker's universe that he destroyed, right? That's what it seemed like to me, because he talks about like, I find this other universe where like I die, but I was like a normal guy, and I just inject myself into that family. And then when the universe starts falling apart, there's a part where it's like Spider-Man, as far as I know, the original Peter Parker was like trying to save a kid, and like things got all destroyed. And then after the flashback, he says like, whatever, isn't that right, Peter? And then like he kind of like slumps his shoulders and he's like, yeah. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed to me he destroyed the original Peter's universe, but I'm not 100% sure.
I mean, as far as Miguel, I mean, for 2099, he doesn't have spider sense. He has the vampiric teeth that can paralyze people. He uses his claws a lot. He has a cape. It's just like, well, he's just edgy because he was made in the 90s. But for that verse, there was no Peter Parker for that verse. And Peter Parker was like idolized in that verse for being who he was in the past. And he took the serum and became his own Spider-Man. But if y'all look at, I don't know how deep y'all want to go into this theory, but the verse maybe Kenny is talking about, It's like if you ever watched Spider-Man the animated series way back when in the 90s, showing my age. But
Oh, I
when they
definitely saw it
did
too. So
Yes.
when they did the Clone Saga kind of for that, there was a verse where Spider-Man was just a Hollywood actor and he was recruited to become part of the Spider-Man army and he had no powers, no nothing. He was just like, I don't know why I'm here. I'm just an actor. So he kind of could have went in that verse and just became that Spider-Man
yeah,
that didn't have one. Just to be Spider-Man and have a family and also screw that up. So I mean, if we were going deep in a rabbit hole for theories, we could do that one
I
because
do.
Spectacular Spider-Man was in a movie.
Yeah, I do like that. The Miguel theories. I like stuff like this. This is what makes things like Kingdom Hearts
Yeah, it makes it
alluring to
fun.
me. Yeah,
Yeah, it makes it fun to talk about it and just like even if it's not true, it's fun to just talk about it because
yeah,
like that it's a benefit. It's one of the cool things about movies or like seasons that come out every year or however long. Because this is one oh quick side note. I'm so as soon as it said to be continued, I said, okay, well, I'm Googling the release date. I hope to God there's already a release
and
date.
it's
And there
next year,
was, it's like March 24th.
2020. Yep, yeah,
So
literally
I was
next year.
so happy that it's less than a year. It's 9 months away. It's awesome. Anyway, it's cool that when you're in that in between stage where you can just talk about it. Because if the third movie's already out, we would have just watched them back to back, and then you wouldn't have time to come up with theories and like
Right.
speculate, do shit like that.
Yeah, I like that right now. It's framed as though Spot is the big bad. And I do think that everyone will jump him to beat him, right? Because Spot is ridiculous at the end of the movie. But I like that there is a chance that there's going to be, I won't say Kaguya because Kaguya is a terrible villain, but there's going to be another villain after Spot, I think. And I feel like it will just be Miguel. If what I'm gathering from watching it again after hearing about those theories and seeing there's even stuff that like I love YouTube. I love how much evidence people actually can find. Whether it's right or wrong, I still love that they always have like pretty convincing evidence nowadays. Like people do really good journalism. But anyway, so you remember when the Leonardo da Vinci Vulture comes in, right?
Yeah.
And when Miguel first comes in, he's standing there talking to Miles. And as he's talking to him, you can see, or no, he's talking to Gwen. Sorry. Gwen and Miguel are having a conversation. And behind Miguel is the Vulture who has just been kicked down. He's slowly getting back up. When he gets up, though, he like lifts his wings up in this like really crazy way. Now, think about the end of Game of Thrones, literally the last episode of Game of Thrones, when Daenerys first landed after she wiped out King's Landing and her dragon comes behind her and you see the wings come up and they're like framed. Yeah. They're literally framed on her. Like she has dragon wings for a second. It's one of the coolest shots in the whole series. When Miguel's standing there and Gwen is talking to him and she's kind of alerting him like, yo, the Vulture's actually directly behind you. And the wings go up and they're perfectly aligned on his shoulder and it makes him look extremely fucking evil. Like it's a villain's wings, first of all. So already like it naturally is going to be an evil thing because that Vulture looked cool as shit. But when you see it again, like when you watch this movie again, you'll notice exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of framing of Miguel as like
I could definitely see the end of the third movie, like after they deal with Spot, if they're like, I could definitely see the final fight or whatever being Miguel and Miles.
Yeah, something like
fighting.
that.
I want to say this in terms of like theories and just cameos and stuff. One of the coolest fucking cameos to me was, and it's like a multi-part cameo, was the Donald Glover cameo.
Oh my God, that was so good. As the Prowler?
First of all, as the Prowler, but you see him, the way it kind of unpacks. You see him and he's the Prowler and he's like in a cage. And first it's like, oh shit, he's live action. And that's the first time you I think live action in the movie, because later on you see Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, and I thought that was awesome.
There's another part where Spot kicks his own ass and he ends up going to see the Asian lady from the Venom movies, and that's actually that's the first one, but then the second one is
that's the first one. And then Donald Glover.
Yeah.
But what I thought was really cool is that for those of you that don't know, and if you do know, Donald Glover was like petitioning like years ago. He wanted to play Miles Morales in a live action Spider-Man movie. He like wanted to do it. He's petitioning super hard. It was like his dream to play Spider-Man. And he didn't get that, but he ended up making a cameo in some of the live action movies. But in this movie, he's the Prowler, right?
Yeah.
And at first you're like, oh, that's really cool. But then at the end of the movie, you find out that Miles Morales is the Prowler in another universe.
Yep.
And then when you unpack that and go backwards, you realize Donald Glover is Miles Morales in this movie. He's just not Spider-Man. He's the Prowler. He's just another Prowler, a live action Prowler from another universe. And I think that's so cool that basically Donald Glover got to play Miles. Donald Glover got to play Miles Morales.
It goes deeper It goes way deeper than that because if you Donald Glover is actually the inspiration for Miles
Yes,
Morales.
that's what I heard too.
Wearing the Spider-Man costume or Spider-Man pajamas in one of the Community episodes. He was actually the inspiration through that.
That's
And
so
then
awesome.
and
Yeah.
that's when it became the inspiration to make Miles Morales as Spider-Man, and then he was just trying to get on ever since. So that's why he was actually just like I put up a reel not too long ago for when he was in what Spider-Man was that? Spider-Man Homecoming, when he was actually the Prowler in that movie, and then just like Tom Holland coming through with it, and he tried to do the Batman voice, is just like trying to interrogate him.
Yeah.
So it kind of went full circle for that version.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
That
man,
is really
because
cool.
like he got to play the character, and then I didn't know the character, like the initial Miles Morales was even inspired by him to begin with, and then he got to play Miles Morales in a weird way as the Prowler.
You know what's interesting? So you're
when
saying
that
he
happens,
got
you don't
to
even realize.
you're saying he got to play Miles Morales. When I saw him as the Prowler, I just assumed that was his uncle in a different verse. I didn't even think like, oh, that's Miles Morales in a different verse.
I didn't think
the
so
Prowler.
either until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
When you see that, like, I just think that's so fucking cool.
The end of the movie
like,
shows that in a verse without Spider-Man at all, Miles becomes the Prowler. But do you think that means that Donald Glover is Miles Morales because of that?
I think in that instance, right? Yes. Like, I don't think, and in every other universe, that means Miles Morales becomes the Prowler. But in my opinion, in that instance where they show Donald Glover, I feel like it's almost intent. They show him as the Prowler. We know, like, if you know the backstory about him and Miles, you know that he's wanted to play Spider-Man and Miles Morales specifically for years.
Okay, so you're using that context.
Show him,
yeah,
and then like they show him Miles Morales as the Prowler at the end of the movie, and then like if you recontextualize it, you can go, oh shit, he's Miles Morales here.
I just thought he was his uncle,
but
Miles. I could see him being Miles. I could 100% see that. That can make sense. Okay, so another thing I want to go over is the beginning of this movie. So this movie starts off fantastic. It starts off with Gwen Stacy. She's just giving a backstory on everything that has happened, and I am a sucker for melancholy. I don't know what it is about me because I'm not even a depressed person. Like, I swear to God, I have never really suffered from clinical depression or anything like that. Never been diagnosed. But I love things that are just naturally sad and very melancholy. So when it opens up and she's like, he lost someone and he's not the only one. And she's like, and then he was alone and he's not the only one. And she keeps on saying all of these sad things, and it shows the scenes from the first movie, and then it keeps on flipping back to her and her being sad and being like, and he's not the only one. And then she's playing that song with her band, and she's going off doing a solo basically at the end, and they're all staring at her like, what the fuck? Like, we've been way past this. I just love like everything about it when she's in her room and she's super sad and thinking about Miles and her, the friends that she made and how she can't really see them anymore. And then obviously we know on the other side of that, they show really soon after her whole arc that Miles is having a very similar experience where he's alone and he's obsessed with her. He's like drawing her on literally everything obsessively. It's borderline creepy, if I'm being honest. Like if I saw somebody's scrapbook and literally every page was her, I thought that was kind of funny when she does come to his room and she sees it.
I thought that was so cute. She was like, I miss you too. When
she just
like, I miss you too.
Yo, the beginning of the movie, it opens up so well. Also,
but I was going to say, I remember being 15. Sometimes you have a crush on a girl or whatever, and then like when that happens, that's all you fucking think about.
Your whole world revolves around it. I get it. So I like that every different Spider person's universe has a completely different art style. And
yeah, well, I wanted to say before we move on from the Gwen thing, the start of the movie, I loved the aesthetic choices that they did, like the colors and just like the way, like it looked like a fucking comic book in a lot of ways. Like just the way they did a lot of that in the first movie too, but I feel like they pumped it up even more in this movie. And aesthetically, it looked so fucking cool. The way, and then the parts where she's talking to her dad, and almost the whole bottom of the screen gets really washed out and watercolory.
Yeah, do you notice that the walls, when she was having that argument, the walls started to drain like it was like crying almost. The walls literally started to slide down like wet paint. Really good details. Really
fucking cool. And then I just like
I love how they just with each character, there's 4 different characters in that fight. When Shakespearean Vulture was fighting, it was all just that grainy paper they had on it. They kept it consistent with her in her verse, and then when Jessica Drew showed up, Issa Rae's character, it just spotlight her artwork, and then when Miguel showed up, it just turned a totally different vibe when he showed up, and just like, and then after her and her dad having that talk, and like Fraser said, that the walls was like, it was like the walls started melting with
Yeah,
the
they
emotion.
literally,
Her,
dude.
like, I gotta be a cop. My dad chose to be a cop rather than being my dad at this point, so I had to leave. And
she
it's just
literally
like
begs.
all the emotion from the scene. It's just like it's just great animation.
Dude, it's a heartbreaking and I remember I got confused for a second, but then the movie clears it up. At first I thought her dad was Peter's dad in that universe, and then it became, and I was like, oh man, that sucks. It's like basically the exact opposite of like Peter and Gwen and other universes. But then I realized, like, oh no, Gwen's dad is still the police guy. She's just dating Peter, and then like he's after Spider-Woman in this case because like he thinks he's doing it, one as a cop, but two for his daughter because like her daughter's boyfriend got killed. It was awesome.
Wait,
Aesthetically
you're
amazing.
saying boyfriend, were they dating?
I don't know if they were dating, but
That was considered her best.
They were dating.
There was her best friend.
They said best friend, yeah.
Yeah.
I just kind of assumed they were, but maybe not. But maybe they were. I think they were supposed to go to prom together though.
Okay.
Because like when she shows up at the prom, she's like looking for him. I don't know.
So
but
here's
anyway.
another thing. You're talking about them dating and stuff, and I do want to point this out because people online were mad. I don't know if you guys heard about the controversy with this movie, but in Gwen's, and so there's this whole theory. Now, this theory, I don't know what to think about this. This is not mine, obviously. I'm a big internet person that just likes to research things. But there was a bit of outrage about Gwen's character. People suspect that Gwen is trans. Now, there's a couple things that they use to like prove this. So one of them is the colors of her universe, especially in the beginning, and then things like the colors that she actually wears. For people who don't know, the trans flag, the trans colors are pink and this really light blue color, like a sky bluish color.
Gwen, white, right? Or am I wrong? Isn't it white, pink? Isn't it white, pink, and sky blue, or is it just pink and sky blue?
I think it's just pink and sky blue. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just pink and sky blue. So there's like trans colors, right? And a lot of her character is those two colors. It's just like you actually see them a lot throughout this movie, especially. The other thing is that in her actual room, there is a sign above her door. They show it really briefly, but I didn't catch it the first time I watched it. I only catched it the second time when I knew about it. So I was like, where the fuck is this sign that they were talking about? There's a sign above her door in her bedroom that says protect trans kids, like flat out, just like that. Like protect trans kids is in her room in the beginning of the movie. And it's there for like probably 5 seconds, but if you're not really looking there, you won't notice it. And
there's so much on screen, like seeing that on your, you know what I mean? Like it's
I had no idea that there was a sign that said protect trans kids the first time I saw it. I'm also looking at the trans flag now. I do see the white stripe going through the middle, so it's like blue, pink, white, then pink, blue. So it's like inverse. But there is a white stripe going through the middle of it. But that is the trans flag. So her colors are the trans colors, the protect trans kid thing. Yes, she is 15, like Kenny pointed out, but people suspect that she is actually trans. I don't really know. I also don't particularly care because the movie itself doesn't make it a topic about her character. So I feel like I don't know why people are trying to force that into the narrative if the movie itself didn't talk about it.
My opinion on this is that, like, first of all, once again, she's like 15. So I'll admittedly say I don't know the full scope of what is considered trans. I don't know if you have to be in the process of transit, because I know you don't have to actually transition to be considered trans.
I was about to say you don't have to transition, but yeah.
But I don't know if you have to like intend on doing, like, I don't know. But anyway, I think she's 15, and I don't know if they're saying that like she's born a girl and she plans on becoming a, like plans on transitioning to boy, or if she was born a boy and at 15 transitioned to girl. I don't really know what they're saying, but I'll say this. I think that as far as I know, in the comic book she's from, she is a cis female.
Yes.
And her color scheme in the comic is white, pink, and blue. Sky blue. Like
it just happens to be the same colors as the trans flag. Yeah.
Her ballet shoes are sky blue. She has like the pink webs, and her outfit's white. So that was always her color scheme. And as far as I know, she was always a cis woman. And secondly, you can believe in protecting and defending trans people without being trans.
Correct.
Like you can defend a group of people and fight for a group of people without being part of that group. So I don't think that either. I mean, and then finally, if she is trans, okay, fine. I don't think Miles will care. I don't think Miles will be like, ooh, you're trans. I think they'll like her. I think they have an emotional deep connection, and I don't think whether or not she's trans will have really any impact on
Yeah,
whether or
my
not
thing
they're
is
in
that
love.
it's not a part of the actual narrative of the story, what her sexuality is or what she actually chooses to identify as. Like that's never a point of the movie, of
Yeah.
any of the movies. So for me, I don't believe in injecting that. And like for example, I'm sure that there's people out there who can make a case that like Miles Morales might be bisexual or something. Why would they think that? I don't know, but you could probably find some evidence somewhere that will support that theory, right? Just because you can pretty much do that with anything. But like,
Yeah.
if the story itself has not made any point of that being a thing narratively, then I don't really see why you would kind of and I have obviously, as a member of the LGBTQ community myself, I don't mind either way, but I don't. It might just be a bit of a reach because, like you said, you can definitely support a group of people without necessarily belonging to that group of people. They're called allies.
Yeah.
There are allies to the LGBTQ community, and a lot of them will have things like that. Like I know people who just have like rainbow flags and stuff like that, like little miniature ones hanging off their backpacks, but they're not even gay or anything. They're like, nope, my friend is, or my kid is, or my sister is, or my mom, or whatever. And that's the reason why I don't mind carrying this symbol of pride or whatever it is. But it was an interesting thing because it's Pride Month right now as we're recording this, and I didn't notice that was even a thing. Like when I watched the movie, at no point did I think to myself, oh, like trans. Like I never even thought that might be a thing, but it was something I saw on the internet, and then people were arguing, obviously, because once you say that, then they're like, well, these, like you said, she's 15, so people were really mad. Like here y'all go trying to push this agenda, and it became this whole thing.
What was the drama between their relationship? Why did what effect would that have on her and Miles?
Yeah, exactly. But like, listen, the hoteps in the fucking comments, Kenny, I'm not even going to get into the toxic stuff that they were saying.
That's insane. Because to transition this to something cool, the moment in the movie where they're fucking upside down, but like, and they're sitting and like they have that kind of romantic moment that you would have, but they're doing it upside down because they're Spider-Man. That shit was it was like romantic, it was touching, it was emotional, and it was just visually very fucking cool because they're both spider people. Like that was such an awesome moment and like emotionally charged. Like it was fucking incredible.
Yeah, I want to actually talk about that. So that is my favorite scene in the entire movie. When I was first in the theater watching the movie, I didn't know where it was going, didn't know anything about it. And I'm sitting there. When they got to the part where she was like, is Spider-Man grounded? And he makes this face like a typical teenage boy who knows he's about to do some bad shit because of a girl. He makes this face that's like so mischievous. And then he just like jumps out the window and starts, doing his web crawl stuff and web swings. And she is going.
What'd you say? Shout out to Dr. Umar.
Oh yeah. Dr. Umar hates the fact that Miles Morales is black and he's like into a white woman is like whole thing, but that's
endemic.
Yes.
He's probably mad that Miles is mixed too.
He might be.
Because I remember one of his things was that like you're not supposed to mix blood.
Yeah, he's very big on that. He's very, very big on that. But that scene where they both start to traverse the city, and she's insane at it, right? She's really, really good at it. She's way more advanced than him because one, she's a part of Spider Society at this point. So she's had actual mentorship and training. He's had Peter Parker, but Peter Parker settled down to have a kid and he can't see him anymore. So
my God. By the way, I love how throughout the whole movie, they're trying to dog on Peter Parker and say he's a shit mentor. And then like when he just tricks and fucks on the entire Spider Society, he goes, well, like I must not be that bad. Like I must.
There were two moments where he's like, I taught him that, and it worked out in his favor. So it's really funny how they do shit on him being a mentor, but he's actually just clearly a really good one because he accomplishes his goals using stuff that he was taught by his mentor. Anyway, so they're traversing the city, and it's like one of the best scenes because she's doing everything. She's like thread the needle. They go between two buses that are really, really close together. So there's very, very small opportunity for error. Right? Like there's very small opportunity for error. If you fuck up, you could just die. So they're doing that and they're doing all this kind of cool stuff. And they get to a point where they end up on like a rooftop and they're looking at the entire New York, right? And it's just such a beautifully shot scene. The way they drew it, the way they animated it. And then she goes upside down and he's still right side up. And then he decides to go the same way and go upside down. And they're sitting like cross-legged, but upside down, which physically my mind can't wrap itself around how that's even possible because they are spider people. They can literally do these really cool things that basically no one else could do. It defies physics. And I just love how casually her hair is like dangling down. Yep. They're showing her right side up, but her hair is kind of sticking up. That's because she's upside down. That scene is so cool. And then how sad it is, the topics that they're talking about at that moment about just like, the stuff that she went through back at home and losing her friend and all that stuff. Like, it's so
I love
good.
that Gwen was basically the main character alongside Miles.
Yes.
Like, because the movie opens with Gwen. Like, I feel like she got just as much, if not a little less screen time, but she got a ton of screen time. And I loved, because I think Spider-Gwen, that, first of all, that design is probably one of my favorite comic book character designs. Like, her Spider-Man outfit with the white hood and the black and the white and the design is sick. And the ballet shoes, I also want to quickly say, I like the ballet shoes way more than the Chucks.
So wait, she wears ballet shoes in the original, I guess?
She wears ballet shoes in the comic books, in the first movie, and at the start of this movie, she has the ballet shoes on. She doesn't get the Chucks until after she meets Hobie, and so the next time you see her, when she sees Miles,
What'd you say?
She was wearing his sneakers, and then that was the whole thing.
Yeah, she was wearing his Chucks. But in the movie, there's a part, because she has the ballet shoes on. I think it's probably when she's fighting the Vulture, it's around that time. There's a part where she like crashes through and she like kind of lands and she's like in a Spider-Man pose, like with one leg bent and the other leg like stretched out. But when she does it, her one leg is like up, her one foot's like up on the toe, like a ballerina.
Right.
I don't know, it just looks really clean with the ballet shoes, and like she lands like a ballerina on a classic Spider-Man pose. Just all of it looked so clean. I like it a lot. But anyway, the Chucks are cool too, but I like the ballet shoes. Anyway, her design overall is one of my favorites, and I'm really happy that she got a lot of screen time and she was treated as like the main character alongside Miles. Even though Miles is obviously still the main character, she was like right there.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is definitely more focused on Gwen than obviously the first one was, and I do feel like they co-star in this one. I think that it is equally a story about Gwen as it is about Miles. And yeah, I love the so when you get her backstory, which is also the beginning basically, you find out that because she became Spider-Woman in her verse instead of Peter Parker, she does befriend him and they're really close and everything like that. He ends up, I guess, because of being bullied and suffering from depression and stuff like that, he ends up becoming the Lizard Man in her verse. Yeah. And when I was watching, I was like, yo, that's actually so fucked. Like how people, so that's also a precursor for the end of the movie too, is how a character who is usually a good character, right? And normally under normal circumstances, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. He's usually a good person. Under normal circumstances, he's good. But in her verse, he becomes a villain actually, and he attacks her prom and she stops him, and in an accident happened and he ends up dying. Her dad walks in on her, and it's like this whole big thing where her dad believes that Spider-Woman is the reason why he's dead, when his reality is like, well, she didn't really kill him literally. She was trying to save him, if anything, and also stop people from dying from the Lizard Man's rampage. But what's cool about that is that's the very beginning of the movie. This is the first 10 minutes when you see that. And then the end of the movie is cool because you find out, okay, Miles in 42, where there is no Spider-Man, again, whenever something happens to the person who's supposed to become Spider-Man Spider, bad shit happens. So now Miles, who's typically a good person, ends up being the fucking Prowler. And I like a lot of the foreshadowing throughout this movie. A lot of this movie is you see something that happens earlier, like the DNA machine, the machine that sends you back to your verse based on your DNA. That's like a big part that they show early in the movie. And then later in the movie, when Miles uses it to go home, it's such a big plot twist.
Like, because that shit got me. Like,
I
want to know if anybody was like,
I did not see
if anybody was like, oh, I saw that coming.
Nope.
Like, I want to know who's.
But real quick, Kenny, before you go into that topic, and the key part of what Gwen was saying to Miles is like every Gwen station in Spider-Man universe dies or is made for Peter Parker, but she ends up dying.
Yeah.
And Miles is trying to say, well, we could try things once. And then it's like trying to close the envelope, but she knows in the back of her head, it's like, oh, he's the anomaly. She like,
right, you're not supposed to.
This can't happen. I'm not even supposed to be here. But first and foremost, this can't happen for my Legion and the Spider-Verse army or whatever. That Miles is this, that, and the third, and she has conflicting feelings for that. And then their love is so almost kind of Shakespearean as culture they were fighting.
Yeah, it's forbidden, basically.
And even when she met his parents in the water tower, just like, this ain't it for me.
Yeah,
I love once again for me. Once again, another part where they say something earlier in the movie and then it happens later. Earlier in the movie, when Miles was talking about his friends, they're like, he calls me by my first name. What the hell is wrong with that kid? Like,
yeah,
and I don't like that. And then when she shows up, she's like, oh, hey, Jeff. And he's like, she called me by my first name.
Yeah, he says it under his tongue. And it's basically that's basically a white thing, right? That's kind of what they're saying, is that like white people refer to their parents by that, because you cannot do that in a black household. So people who are listening, if you're not black, I don't know what you're allowed to do in your household, but in a black household, you are not allowed to refer to your mother or father by their actual first name. That is not a thing. I have never called my dad Frazier, and I've never called my mom by her first name either. It's just not, it doesn't even sound right. It doesn't feel right,
sound right
for me to call my mom by her first name.
I can't make a case for any other household but mine, but I know that this shit didn't. You know what's funny? My younger brother, who's now 22, he didn't know my dad's name for like the first 10 years of his life, basically, because so he knew his mom's name was Christine, and he knew that because she's not my mom. So like when I referred to her, I would call her Christine. I didn't call her mom. But we all called my dad Dad, because he was all of our biological dads. So I just remember one time he was like 7 or something, and his mom was like, what's my name? And he was like, Christine. Like, what's my real name? At first he said mom. She was like, no, my real name. He was like, Christine. She was like, what's your dad's name? And he was like, Dad? They were like, what's his real name? And he goes, I don't know, Dad.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He never heard his real name.
And he never calls him by anything but his real name. I mean, that's funny. So yeah, I like the fact that that's like a whole little insider kind of joke there. There's a lot of that too that goes on. But what I think it's just cool how they foreshadow things. They don't just do things that are random and nonsense. It's kind of like, well, there's actually a precursor to this. If you see the beginning of the movie and you look at what happens towards the end, you're like, oh, like for example, another thing. There's so much of this, but Hobie, as he's going through Spider Society, he's just stealing shit.
Yeah, he is. I love the part where he takes the thing off the wall and he's like, that shit didn't work anyway. And Miles like, it probably did before you ripped it off the wall.
Yeah. Like he literally goes around stealing parts constantly. And Miles is kind of annoyed by him because Hobie's trying to tell him to be a rebel and like, oh, you don't need to watch. You can do your own thing. Because Miles' whole thing is, I want to be down. I want to be a part of the society so bad. This is all I ever wanted. In fact, when he gets his invite, he's like, I'm invited back. And he's super happy about it, that he doesn't even care like, oh, this might be a bad thing or something. Because at the time, Miguel was mad. He wasn't inviting him back for anything good. He was inviting him back because he was pissed and they needed to fix things. So he's like, yeah, you're invited back. And Miles is like, wait, I get an invite to Spider Society? Like, fuck it, let's go. So
Randy.
Yes. So when Hobie's going through and he's talking to him, and he's basically kind of mentoring him too. Low key, he's telling him like, listen, you could build your own watch and you're much cooler and you don't need anybody else. You could do your own thing. Fuck the establishment. He's like really big on that. I think when Peter Parker's daughter takes a poop on top of Miguel's shoulders, he says, you shit on the establishment. He's like, I salute you. He's like, I salute you. He's like, you shit on the establishment, I salute you. And I thought that was just so funny.
He's a rant because he's on one end, he's a rebel without a cause, but on the other end, like, because at one point he was just like, fuck this, I don't need a group or whatever. And then Miles was like, yeah, but you're in a band. He's like, I do my own shit. Like, I don't believe
he said, somebody gave him an order earlier in the movie. He was like, I'm going to do it, but not because you said so.
Yeah. So Hobie's awesome though, because like you said, on one end, he's kind of like ridiculous. He's kind of has like a rebel without a cause thing, but on the other end, he is instilling like good values in the Miles, or trying to, and that like you don't need other people to validate yourself. Like you can validate yourself just all on your own. And then I think the original point you were getting to is that while he's randomly stealing shit and like for seemingly no reason, at the end of the movie, he builds his own watch
and gives it to Gwen, and she uses that to travel to 1610, Miles' original universe, and not 42. Which again, that plot twist is amazing because another one that we foreshadowed about was the DNA machine. So you talked about people who might have seen that coming, or people who didn't. Me and you did not see it coming. When he got back,
I feel like I saw it coming. I feel like you're big.
Yeah,
cool
I just feel like the movie was
cool guy.
The plot was written in a way where it was supposed to definitely get you off guard. So he first arrives, he's like, I made it, I'm home. And he's on his bed and he's super happy about it finally when he gets there. And nothing really stands out. It was raining the night that he's web swinging through everything, but nothing really stands out too much. And the verse, on the second watch, again, because the second watch is always different. Now that you know what to look for, on the second watch, I noticed that verse is purple. It's a very, very violet verse in general, which obviously Prowler. But that verse that doesn't have a Spider-Man 42, when he gets there, he's like, I'm home. He starts talking to his mom. And it's honestly a part that made me damn near tear up, just the conversation he has, because he's like, Mom, I showed them all. She was like, they came for me and I beat them. And like he stands up in like this strong, like he does a strongman pose. He's like, I beat them all. And his mom's like, what's wrong? He's like, promise me that, what I'm about to tell you, you won't, look at me differently or judge me for it or whatever. She's like, no matter what you say, I'm always going to love you, right? Like no matter what you can, there's not a single thing you can say to me, which is like a very emotional thing that a mom can say to you. Like, no matter what you tell me, you're always going to be my son. I'm always going to love you. So she says that. And then he's like, he does that like little, thing where he puts his head up and he's like, fuck, I'm about to really do this. Like the emotions are just swelling in his body. And then he says, Mom, I'm Spider-Man. And he like rips open his jacket and reveals the costume that's all fucked up.
She's like, Mijo, who the fuck is Spider-Man?
She stares at him for so long. And it's this awkward thing because in a theater, you're like, okay, we're all waiting. We're all anticipating her response, right? Like you're just waiting to see how she's going to react to this huge news. This is fucking huge news. And then after what seemed like literally 10 seconds of her looking at him, she just goes, what are you talking about? Who's Spider-Man? And my mind, when that happened, I was like, wait, so his mom is one of those people that like, she's so much of a recluse that she doesn't watch the news. She doesn't like go outside or something, because I didn't know what to think about that when she said, who's Spider-Man? It didn't go to, my mind didn't immediately say, oh, he's in a verse where there's no Spider-Man. He actually got sent to the wrong place. I was thinking that his mom was like a hipster kind of person who just she genuinely doesn't know who Spider-Man was. And then she's like, what did you do with your hair?
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. It's like I say that was the giveaway. That was a hint of just like,
yeah, a hint. It wasn't a giveaway, but it is definitely a hint that something is wrong. Yes. The whole like, what'd you do with your hair thing? I was like, what the fuck is she talking about his hair? Like his hair is exactly the same as it's been the entire movie. And then his uncle shows up.
Bro.
When the door opens and his uncle steps through and then he sees the mural of his dad instead of his uncle and he glitches. And then he sees his uncle talking to his mom and he's giving her money. And she's like, no, I can't take this. He's like, no, your family. I'm always going to look out for you. Bro. Because at that point, you're like, oh my fucking God, this is crazy. And you realize what's actually happening. And at the same time, Gwen, who gets back to his original verse 1610, she's in his bedroom. And they frame it where you don't know where she's at and you don't know where he's at. You think they're in the same spot. You think you actually think that everyone, because Miguel's on the chase too. So like Miguel, what's the Issa Rae's character name?
Jessica Drew.
Jessica, she's there. And
Scarlet Spider.
And the Scarlet, so they're all there. It's 3 people. They're all in 1610, I believe. So they all go to the wrong place. Like Gwen, they all go to the wrong place. And you think that everyone's in the same verse because it's kind of hard to tell that he's not home. So the whole like who is Spider-Man thing, and then she's like, is that something from Comics Con or something? Like is that like one of your dress up things? And he's like, Mom, this is not a joke. Like, what the fuck? I'm Spider-Man. Like, there's not the time for like, it's not a laughing matter right now. I need you to be serious. And the uncle comes in and it's like this slow motion scene where he looks at the door. He sees him walk in and is like, bro, the realization that he glitches and then he starts following his uncle up to the roof or whatever. And then
I love just the real, when his uncle is just like, you took your braids out, huh? And he was purpose. Like, yeah, I did. It's just like, I don't know, just so much little stuff, like him and his uncle talking, and you feel the tension, like, what the fuck is about to happen?
Yes. When his uncle says you took your hair out on purpose, I was like, what? Like, why are they talking about? Because it also, so it happens slow, but it also happens fast. I know that sounds crazy to say, but like while you're watching it that first time when you don't know what's happening, things are unfolding kind of quickly because your mind is trying to figure out what is going on. Why are they making these suggestions that something is different about him when you're looking at him like he looks exactly the same? So while your mind is doing that, you're still watching what's happening on the screen and things are just happening. His uncle's coming in and you're like, wait a second. And then his uncle mentions his hair. And then the mural, obviously, with his dad, you're like, oh my fucking goodness, this guy's actually in 42. The DNA spider thing, it sends you back to your verse based on the DNA that it analyzed. It analyzed the spider that came from this verse that doesn't have a Spider-Man because of Miles. And because it doesn't have a Spider-Man, Miles became the fucking Prowler, which is a huge reveal at the end. And honestly, the design on that Miles with those 2 braids and that outfit, sickening. Like,
he had like the Bow Wow braids.
He looked cool as shit. So,
dude,
another thing that I caught, I didn't catch this the first time, I caught it the second time, when Spot is telling his backstory. So in the beginning of the movie, Spot is robbing a convenience store. And
I gotta rewatch the first movie, by the way.
me too.
I just want to see like how much of that actually happened in the first movie that we
Yeah.
got to see on
Where
screen.
he hit
Go
him with
ahead.
the bagel and all that. Yeah. So Spot it tries to give his origin story. And at first, Miles cuts him off for a bit. And then when Miles finally does get to hear the full thing, he tells him, like, listen, this is what happened. You actually created me. I created you or whatever. But there's a part where they talk about the spider from 42 and they show a classroom with Miles Morales in it. But it is the Miles Morales from the verse without a Spider-Man at the end of the movie. It's the one he's in class. He has the two braids going back and they kind of curl down like ram's horns. When I watched it the second time, I was like, holy shit. That spider was supposed to bite that Miles, but because that guy, Spot, sent it to 1610, it ended up biting, obviously, the Miles Morales that's the main character, and then the Miles that's in the verse of 42 who doesn't get bitten because that spider was meant for him, he doesn't get bitten, he ends up becoming the Prowler. So they actually show that Miles in the beginning of the movie, but when I was first watching it, I didn't think anything of it. They're just showing,
you don't notice.
Yeah, you don't notice anything like that, but the second time I was like, yo, that's actually the one that becomes the Prowler in class. Just so many cool things like that. Yeah, we haven't really talked about Spot like in detail, but
yeah, there's so much just awesome shit that happens in the movie. Like we didn't talk about forgive me, I don't remember his name, but the like the Indian Spider-Man.
I don't remember his name either. First of all, I'm not even going to try to say it because it's actually the name, the way it's written. So they flash on the screen, he says it, but obviously me trying to enunciate that is just not going to work out. I'm just going to call him the Indian Spider-Man because he is literally from India. He said it himself. He talks about chai tea and how that's just one of those things that.
Dude, that's so funny. Because earlier in the movie too, like Miles does like, why do y'all call it ATM machine?
Yeah.
The M stands for machine. And it's funny because a little bit later in the movie, Miles basically does the same thing. He calls something chai tea, and he's like, "Chai, you're calling it TT." Like you're in it. Like it's just once again, this movie does a lot of things where like it layers a joke or layers a theme on itself. But anyway, he was fucking awesome. I'm assuming he's from a Spider-Man comic book somewhere. I've never read it. I've never known about that character, but the way he used the webs, like those fucking like dreidels, I don't know, whatever they obviously weren't dreidels, but those like rings, those like rings with the, and like he was like doing cat's cradle and shit and being inside.
He was broken. Apparently,
he was sick as hell.
Apparently, he's such an efficient Spider-Man that his biggest gripe in life is just finding, basically a wife. Like he doesn't really struggle at all. He's actually naturally good at everything, which is why he was so obnoxious in the beginning. When they introduce him, he's like, I basically wake up every day. I don't work out because I have a perfect body and I don't really have to. And I don't want to get too
buff. Yeah.
And he's like, I have a perfect body. I don't want to get too big. And then he said, I also don't do anything to my hair at all. And he's like, and then Miles says nothing. And he goes, well, just coconut oil. But that's it. He said something about good genetics. So like his whole life is perfect. And he's talking about the girl that he's in love with. And he's talking about like, oh, maybe tonight we can. And then her dad walks up and he's like, Inspector, what? I don't remember the guy's name, but it's Inspector something. And he says, Inspector, I don't know this girl at all. Like I'm just sitting here. And he like backs him off the daughter. It's really funny. But yeah, I really like his character as well. And the way they layer in the canon events with what happened in, was it like Monbatten or something like that was the name of that place. That it was basically Manhattan.
It was Manhattan, but also mixed with like forgive me, I'm gonna say the name wrong, but like Mubata or like it's an actual Indian city.
Yes.
Mumbata or something like that. I don't know. I'm not saying
they mixed the two places.
Use the names.
Yes.
Architecture of that city was just insane.
It was absolutely ridiculous.
It was fucking sick as hell.
Yeah, it was like Dubai, basically, because it was basically the best architecture you ever have seen. And when he was just crashing through it when he first got there, because he follows her into the portal, right? That's how he ends up there. When he's crashing in and falling, the amount of layers that he goes through, I was like, what the hell? Why is this place so unilaterally high? Like it's such a high altitude place, the way everything is built up really, really high in the sky like that. I was like, regular people, I feel like would just be dying all the time. They also have flying cars, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, actually, I don't. I just said as and I was agreeing that it was sick as hell and like.
Oh wait, no, maybe the flying cars.
Whether or not they had flying cars, I don't know.
I know there were flying cars in the one. Never mind, that was in Miguel's verse. Never mind. But yeah, they had a very, very high altitude building. Everything was like really built up, really, really high. And I definitely noticed the architecture was insane in that place. But I do like that character in general, even though he's definitely obnoxious and pompous and all that good stuff. He's really funny. And that goes back to the whole, like, all of us are funny. It's our thing. And you're not funny. You're always serious, which I don't know, man. I just think that those theories about Miguel, they're probably just true because he's actually nothing like any of the other Spider-Man. It's just so cool to think about. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to talk about Spot? So going back to Spot, when you first see him, I literally thought what they probably wanted me to think is that he really is just a villain of the week. I did not take him serious at all. They do such a good job of framing him at first because he comes in the convenience store. He's like, hey, do you have an ATM machine? And the guy points to the back and he goes in and he's like, all right, time to steal the money. And he sticks his hands in the portal and it grabs the thing of salt. And he's like, oh, not that. Wait, okay, let me put it back in. And he puts his hands back in. And then you see his little hand reaching around for the fucking actual money. And then when he goes to grab it, it goes through the fucking ground. And then outside, somebody trips over the ATM machine.
Who left this ATM machine in the middle of the street?
Yeah. Somebody trips over it outside.
He's complete ass.
Yes. And so the convenience store clerk is like, what the hell is going on back? So he pulls out a baseball bat and he goes back there with Spot. And Spot's like, please let me rob you. As the guy's like swinging at him and everything. And it's this whole...
It's my first time, being a criminal. Like, don't ruin this for me.
Yes. He's like, I used to have a regular job, but now I turned into a life of crime because I look like this. And when you're thinking about what he's saying, it doesn't sound serious, but it's really what happened. He really did turn to a life of crime because he can't get a job because he looks like that. So... And it's also his skin, which he explains to Miles later on. He's like, this is actually my... He's like, unfortunately for you and me, this is my skin. Which is funny because at first you're like, well, why would that be unfortunate for Miles? Well, it's unfortunate because Miles can only physically attack him. And good luck with that because my skin is actually just fucking portals. So a lot of things that he says, one, the voice acting on that guy, he has a non-serious voice. He just sounds like somebody that would never be a final boss, that would never be a big bad. And when you listen to him talk and the way he looks, his character design is kind of ass too, right? Like he doesn't look cool. They call him Dalmatian,
like a cow and a Dalmatian. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you first see him, you first see Spot, he's robbing an ATM. That is already just the lowest of the low. None of Spider-Man's villains basically are that bad where they're robbing an ATM, which is why he gets talked about as you're just a villain of the week.
Yeah, and I definitely thought he was like opening movie villain, and then like the real shit happens a little bit later. But I definitely thought he was just like the movie opens and he's just like this joke villain, whatever.
Yeah, even Spider-Man didn't take him seriously. He started making a what was that? It was like an empanada or something he threw in the microwave. And
yeah.
And then he's talking about how come you say ATM machine? Just like a lot of things that the notes, I don't really take you seriously. I'm just going to beat you real quick.
How good of a voice actor though, right? Because you were saying like his voice is not serious. When he started putting it on, when they were like, no, like you are a great villain. He was like, not yet, I am. Like he was like, not yet. Like when they were saying like you're already a great villain. He was like, not yet, but I will be. And like when he started being serious,
his voice changed. And you're exactly right. Even towards the end of the movie, when he becomes all powerful and he's mostly black. First of all, his character design goes from looking really trash to just sickening.
It looks so much better. Like the black with a little bit of white looks so much fucking
and he's
better.
Like glitching constantly. Like he has this electricity looking stuff all over his body. Everything about the progression of Spot throughout the movie I thought was really well done. Even down to the second time they see him in Mountbatten, they find him and he's going through all these portals looking for Averex, and he's like, oh, you see, I've upgraded my game. And he's going through all these portals and he's fucking them up too. He kicks Spider-Gwen in the face. He's like, bet you didn't see that one coming. And he's doing all this stuff. And as I'm watching it, I was saying to myself, this actually low-key isn't okay. The stuff that he was doing where he was... Yeah, I was like, this low-key, I don't know how they're supposed to beat him because everything he's doing was a bit absurd. So in the beginning, he fucks up a lot because he doesn't really understand how his powers work yet. And Spider-Man basically wraps him up by webbing him through each portal. There's like 16 portals around him, and all of his limbs and multiple parts of his body are tied up by webs throughout all of it. So he leaves him there and he goes to go make that parent-teacher conference with the college advisors, whatever. So while that's happening, I'm like, all right, that's the end of Spot. He's no big deal. And then he comes back later on and he's still up to his shit. So then Miles has to leave early out the advisory meeting to go deal with that. And I'm like, all right, why are we dealing with this guy again? As I'm watching, this guy's ass. Even though his ability is kind of cool, I'm like, he is ass though.
A nuisance at best.
Yes.
I love the part. Was that the part when he wraps them up through all the portals, or was it another part? There's a part where they basically do maximum spider. Yeah, I got fucking hype as shit. I was like, oh yeah,
yeah. He does do that to him, and it gets to a point where his dad, Miles's father, shows up, and Spot basically beats himself. He like kicks himself in the ass, and he goes through one of his portals. He basically goes inside.
By the way, it
himself.
looked like to me he kicked himself in the nuts. They didn't say that. They said kicked himself in the ass. But when I watched it, it looked like he kicked himself in the nuts.
Yes. So he kicks himself in the rear and he ends up falling into his own body's portal, which we've never seen him do before. So when he does that, you're like, oh shit, I don't know what that means, but Spider-Man is happy about it. Miles is like, all right, he kicked his own butt, I guess. And then his dad's like, I thought we were supposed to catch the villains. He's like, I always do, most of the time. And the way Miles changes his voice when he's talking to his dad is fucking hilarious to me. That fake ass New York accent he was giving was outrageously funny. Like I literally was
love
laughing.
when they do that.
Oh, it
They
was
did that
so
in the
good.
Tom Holland did that too. Like when he tries to like act like a man.
Yeah.
Because like one of the funniest things about Spider-Man is that he's fucking he's 15, 14, 16. Like he's a kid. And when he does like the man voice and has like this Brooklyn accent, like it's so fucking funny.
He's talking to his dad. Why don't you just let him spread his wings? You know?
Yeah.
Like
Why don't you get off his ass? What'd you say, Cam?
He's like, why don't you get off his ass? I was like, huh?
It was so well done.
It was
but yeah,
cool. That was also a really cool moment because that was a cool father-son moment without the dad realizing it was a father-son moment. Like,
yeah, his dad said something about okay, so Miles said maybe he's afraid to talk to you. He's like, why would he be afraid to talk to me? And he bulks up real quick, like Super Saiyan 2 when they first get it in a hyperbolic time chamber when Vegeta first does it with Trunks and they get gigantic, right? And it's funny because even as Spider-Man, you see Miles in costume, he kind of backs up, like scared a little bit of his dad when he does that. And I love that because that is kind of true. You look at your dad as somebody who's a bit larger than life when you're younger, especially like 15 or whatever. Your dad is still a very big disciplinarian figure in your life if you have one. But yeah, his dad is also gigantic. Like he's even though Miles is obviously way stronger than him, he is still like an authoritative figure in his life. And speaking of authority, later on when he gets grounded, I love when he goes to his room. He's like, I'm not grounded. I'm Spider-Man.
I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, I love that. He sits on his V. He's like, I ain't grounded. I'm Spider-Man. It's such a kid thing to say. But then you realize, like, yeah, you actually just aren't grounded because what the fuck could they do? Right? Like,
they can't do shit. It's awesome. I want to say this is super fucking random, but it's like a quick side jump. But I wanted to ask Cam, did you know every Spider-Man in this fucking movie? Like, did you recognize all of the? Because I recognized a lot, but there was some where I was like, I don't know where the fuck that's from.
I more or less noticed the Spider-Man that weren't in the movie than the ones that were in the movie, if that makes sense.
Damn. So out of all those fucking Spider-Man in the movie, you were like, they didn't get this one.
I missed the 96 one, the Spider-Man anime series. That wasn't in there. All the ones from the first movie was in there. Noir wasn't there. Spider-Ham wasn't in there.
Well, they were in there at the end. Well, I don't think Spider-Ham was in that at the end, but at the end they showed all the ones from the first one. I think except
yeah. In the very end. I think I did notice a lot of them, and then for a bunch of ones I was like, "Who the hell is that?" But they did a great job of getting all those Spider-Mans in there that they could. Of course, 67 Spider-Man stole the show. Which
one?
1967 Spider-Man. We tried to stop him. He really is like 1D. He can't do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
He couldn't do shit.
He just web swung right past him.
That was awesome. I also thought it was awesome. They had like a PS1 Spider-Man. They had a blatant like 2018 Spider-Man. Like they had like the PS4 Spider-Man at one point. Like the video, the Insomniac Spider. And then there was another part where I'm assuming it's like a PS1 Spider-Man. He was like really short,
yeah,
like,
I noticed that.
I was like, I'm guessing that's like the PS1
Didn't
or PS2.
He actually
Spider-Man.
speak to him at some point?
Yeah, he legit had like speaking lines.
Yeah, he had a conversation with him a little bit. He stepped forward.
That was a spectacular one from the WB days.
Okay. He did look very cartoonish, very old school cartoonish though. So my favorite one is Lego Spider-Man. I'm gonna just tell y'all right now. I died laughing when Lego Spider-Man went into the bathroom, pulled his little mask on, and then was like beep boop. And he started talking to Miguel. And then at the end of the conversation, he was like boop boop. And he just like making his own little noises. That shit was so adorable to me.
He was gonna put in work. Just like they made a blatant point, just like have the Lego stage on there and just he had his little comm system. I thought he was gonna put in work.
I thought he was gonna put in some work too. He didn't get to do much.
He even said, "You're one of my best. Like you're one of the best out." You know,
you're one of the best.
The Lego,
fucking Lego.
The Lego Spider-Man is easily my favorite one in the entire movie. I just love that he has to make his own sound effects. That shit had me dying. He pulled out his little watch.
I always liked. I don't remember what he's from. I guess this movie had him. I definitely didn't like his character in this movie, but I always liked the Spider-Man with the blue jacket. Like I always thought that looked cool. Like where he's just wearing a blue. Yeah, but it was corny in this movie. He was a little bitch.
Yeah, it didn't give what it was supposed to have gave.
It's just like that's one of the things you gotta read the comics. It's just like he's very brooding.
Yeah. No, that's what I figured. That's what I figured.
Like they really made fun of it, and they had I think they had a perfect voice actor from the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine to do his and Adam Sandberg.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that was the voice. Okay,
they had a perfect person to just do him and be like very sarcastic with his character, how he was in the '90s for like the Clone Wars.
Without having read his story, I think they did a great job making satire of it because it was like I fully understood what they were doing. They were making fun of the way he would have, like his seriousness and the way he would have been his original, but making fun of it here. So I thought it was great. I just always liked that design. I don't even remember why. You probably just see it over time. I always liked that design, and I was like, oh man, I didn't realize he was like this.
Yeah. I like man, so much of this movie. I have so many points here that I still want to cover.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So there was a part, I guess I'll go over this one real quick. There was a part where Miguel was about to bite the vulture in the beginning of the movie. And then, the helicopter shined light on him and he stopped. And I don't know where that was going. But again, going back to the whole he might be low-key like a villain at the end or something, or there's something wrong. That part definitely made me think twice, especially the second time seeing it, like why was he about to bite him? And then why also did he stop when he was in plain sight? Like once it was visible to other people, it wasn't okay to bite him anymore all of a sudden. So it's like, well, if Spider-Man was apprehending a suspect or apprehending a criminal, whatever he's doing to do that, he wouldn't stop doing it just because a helicopter shined on him normally, right? Like if I'm webbing somebody up, a helicopter would make me say, oh, let me not do this anymore, right? Like, but he was gonna bite him.
A tenet of most of the Spider-Man is like basically thou shalt not kill. Right. And I feel like that was going to kill him. Like there's no way that guy doesn't die after getting his neck bit.
Yeah. So that was a little wild to me. There was a funny part where Miles was talking about all the things that he's been up to in a year and 4 months that it's been since the first movie. And he's like, I endorse baby powder. Then I made an apology about endorsing baby powder. And then he's like, I made a mistake.
I made a mistake. And my whole theater was laughing at that. Everybody in the theater laughed at that.
Because it just shows how sensitive the world is now. It's like a little jab at how fucking everybody's just such a pansy all of a sudden about everything. So cancel culture is real. So he went on an apology tour about endorsing baby powder. It's like baby powder bad is the headline. That shit had me dying because baby powder is just the most unserious thing ever. Like, how could baby powder be the thing that we're all talking about collectively as a society? How could that be the most important thing? But
I made a mistake.
I made a mistake. It's just like I made an apology about endorsing baby powder. I just thought that was so funny. So the baby powder thing was hilarious. Also, his roommate was playing. So Gary told me that his roommate was playing the new Spider-Man game that's coming out. I couldn't really see either time I watched this movie what actual Spider-Man game it was, but I think it was a Spider-Man game. I just can't tell for sure if it was the new one coming out or if it was maybe 2018 Spider-Man. I have no idea which one it was. But his friend, when he comes in the room, he's like, are you wearing my Jordans? He's like, it's not my fault you wear the same size. But on the TV, the guy's playing a video game. And apparently, according to Gary, it is the Spider-Man game that is coming out, Spider-Man 2. So if that's cool. Is the case, that's actually really cool. Also, the line his roommate says about, I'm not your guy in the chair. So that goes back to Tom Holland's Spider-Man having Ned, who is his guy in the chair. I thought that was just like a nice little Easter egg kind of thing to throw in there. Like, I'm not your guy in the chair. He said first it starts off with just a text, then it becomes walkie-talkies, then it becomes like me setting up a whole, a sting operation type vibe. And he's like, I'm not your guy in the chair. So I thought that was really cool because that's literally how it started in the original Homecoming is like, Ned becomes his guy in the chair. So that little caveat there, I thought that was just cool.
For you, Frazier, are you for the Jordan 1?
Yes.
Spider-Man costume?
Yep. I fucking love the fact that he wears Chicago Jordans. I love that shit so much. When he came in and his roommate had his sneakers on and he took them all, like he took them from him, and you see him running to class. We're not running to class. He's running to that advisory meeting. And as he turns the corner, you see the Jordans on his feet. First of all, that is my favorite Jordan. So I have about 15 pairs of Jordan 1s. And my absolute favorite pair is just originally is 1985 Chicago's. But I don't have the 1985 ones because, first of all, they cost an outrageous amount of money, and the condition that they're going to be in this year, no matter if you protect them or not, the material is just so brittle over time. It just, like, I've seen pairs that people do have, and they're just basically, if you touch them too much, they will crumble. But I do have one of the remakes that came out in 2015 Chicago's, and it is one of my favorite sneakers. It is my favorite Jordan 1. So when I see Miles wearing the red, white, black Chicago Jordan 1s, I'm like, that is just fire to me. Like the fact that he wears those, the fact that I love the way he dresses. Like from a fashion standpoint, I just love the oversized clothing. I will say this. I'm a little confused on what the actual temperature of New York is in the movie, because when they were all on the roof, they were having what looked like a cookout type of vibe. Basically, everyone is in a t-shirt, and then Miles comes, and in every scene he's in, he has on a shirt, a hoodie, a jacket over top of that. Like
he's got to hide his outfit. He's got to hide the Spider-Man outfit.
He has so many layers on, and it's
a triple fat goose on, just like
he has a North Face on. He blatantly has a North Face. Like it doesn't say North Face, but if you know what a North Face Nups jacket is called, if you know what that looks like, he's literally wearing a North Face jacket. Yep. And I kept saying to myself, that is one of the warmest jackets that you could own. Like it is one of my favorites to wear in the wintertime, but I only wear it when it is 40 degrees or lower. I will not put on that jacket unless it's really, really cold. So seeing him in that, I'm like, I get that he's hiding his identity, but there has to be a better way. You're wearing a fucking skin tight spandex suit, my guy.
Can I just say, since we're talking about his outfit and his clothes and whatever, his outfit is sick as hell to me, and fuck everybody in the movie that were saying he's bleeding from his armpits. All right.
Yeah. I didn't. I honestly didn't really get that like joke that they were making. So that was one of the jokes that kind of went over my head a little bit, because I didn't understand why they kept saying it. Like literally, I'm looking at the wallpaper you have up right now in the background of this video. If you're looking at this on Patreon, and it's him with his arm, you can see under his arms. And so now I see the red line going from his armpit to up to his arm. And I noticed that people did say the whole thing about, are you bleeding from your armpits thing? But when they said it, I kept staring at him like, I don't see what's wrong with the red. Like the red coming from his arms, I just don't see what's wrong with it. I do think that his outfit, his costume is one of the best. It's
so clean looking,
really cool looking. But yeah, I didn't get the whole thing either, the jabs they were throwing at him. But I understand now looking at it. Oh, this is what they were saying. But even still, I'm just like, I'm not really.
Yeah, his outfit's fire.
Yes. Another thing that's cool, and this is just a little detail that's kind of thrown out there. So when he gets to that advisory meeting, right, with the counselor and his mom and dad,
that counselor was racist.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. Talking about they're struggling because they're ethnic. So when he gets there, he talks about how he wants to study like basically a way to travel between dimensions. He wants to study physics and like basically any sciencey thing that could lead to him possibly one day traveling to other dimensions. And his dad's like, oh, that sounds like a great paying job. But it's cool because you know that he's depressed about not being able to see Gwen anymore, and he draws her all the time.
Wait, hold on. There's a part where, because his dad did a lot of said one thing and then said kind of the opposite under his breath.
Yeah.
There was definitely a part that had me laughing where he says that sounds like a great fantasy job.
Yeah.
Like he basically is like, oh yeah, that sounds like some fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking?
Parents, they're always like, I want you to do something that's going to pay, they just want us to live a comfortable life. So I like that his parents, like I said, every conversation in this movie basically is a very realistic one between a son and his parents. I love when he first arrives at the counselor meeting, and when he sits down, he's talking about how he was being such a good student. And he sits up in his chair, like all extra studious. Like he fixes his posture because he was slouched at first. And then he kind of does this. And his mom is looking at him though. She's basically seething on the side of his face, but he doesn't look at her. He kind of just does the thing where you kind of turn your eyes to the side.
He does it 3 times. He preps up again. And he's like, all right, hold on.
Yeah,
prep on me up.
He's looking over with his eyeballs, like, I see you looking, but I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. I just love little stuff like that. It's really cool to me. Another thing that's cool, and I called this one the second time, is that Spot calls himself his nemesis in the beginning of the movie. He literally says it in the very beginning. He's like, I'm your nemesis. And he's like, you're not my nemesis. You're just a villain of the week. At the end of the movie, when he tells his mom that he's Spider-Man, he's like, I have to stop Spot. He's my nemesis. Mm-hmm. He blatantly says that shit. Just like that. He says he's my nemesis. So again, going all the way back to the first 20 minutes and then going to the last 20 minutes, I love the character progression of everybody.
I want to ask Cam something without any spoilers of the actual storyline, just in case any of it actually happens in the movie. Is Spot a major villain of Miles in the comics?
I'm not sure of the comics for Spot per se, because Miles is just, I don't know, he kind of doesn't follow the path of a normal spider person.
Okay.
Along lines of when they're doing the Spider-Verse wars and stuff like that, he's not really a big player in it. But when he does his own thing, he is vastly powerful, vastly more powerful than Peter ever was, with his new abilities and stuff like that. But the Spot has always been the villain of the week for Peter Parker. Just like they said, they portray him in this one, at least in the beginning. He never got the extraordinary abilities to transfer like time and space and dimensions to the way he's doing on here.
That's something I do feel like he had to have done. Like, I think it was more than just transferring dimensions. He had to have some transfer of time because it felt like he did so much training and got so much stronger in the short amount of time that the movie took place in. So I also feel like he was like, maybe not on purpose, but going forward and backward through time as he's like getting more spots and shit.
Yeah, but I mean, when you work out a villain in an arc, just like, all right, I'm gonna progressively make him stronger than he's ever been in this. But it's also the writers too, and just like, well, I'm gonna write the Spot how he's always been written. Like, I'm gonna write Stilt Man how he's always been written. I'm gonna write the Rhino how he's always been written. Like, they're not major players. Like, they actually wrote like the Lizard to be a major player. They wrote Hobgoblin to be a major player. They wrote Kingpin to be a major player. Just like whatever. I like when the writers take a character and just like put him in big boss status, like this movie done with the Spot, because you would never think it. It's just like it has to be another person. Like the first movie had the Kingpin. All right, cool. Kingpin is that dude. You know,
Yeah, he always is.
In any whenever you fight Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Spider-Man, Punisher, it doesn't matter. It's the Kingpin. Like that's that guy, but not the Spot.
Not the Spot.
Yeah, they did a good job of subverting your expectations by making him seem like a non-suspecting villain in the beginning. I did not take him seriously, and so the writing is just really good right there because they intended for you not to take him seriously because Spider-Man doesn't take him seriously. No one does. He barely takes himself seriously at this point. He's robbing an ATM and calling it an ATM machine. Like, bro, be fucking for real. Right? Like, just be for real. You're just the most unserious person, and you're calling yourself Spider-Man's nemesis in the first 10 minutes while you're robbing an ATM machine. Like, again, be fucking for real. So that whole thing is hilarious. Another part that I thought was really funny, when Gwen first gets to his room and she's looking at all his stuff and he's quickly trying to clean it up, she sees his action figure and he's like,
oh my God.
He's like, oh yeah, I collect those. And she was like, oh yeah, I have something like this. And she rips it out the plastic. And he's like, that's fine.
Why is it still in the box?
He goes, that's fine. But you could tell my man was fucking hurt, dog. If it was anybody else, they would have
got fucked up. They would have got their face webbed up.
He was so hurt. You could literally see it on this. He was just like, that's fine. And it just hurt him so bad when she ripped that shit out the plastic. But he was so happy to see her. It's like, well, I don't care. And then she started talking about, you got bigger, you went through a little growth spurt and everything. He's all looking at her like, yeah, I have. Yep, I definitely have.
It is crazy how much older he looks. To the point where before they said it's only been like a year or whatever, like I was like, man, it's got to be like 3. Like he looks so much bigger. Yeah. Like it's funny though, because when he has the suit on, he looks so skinny. I guess it has to do with how baggy he wears his clothes.
Yes.
But he looks younger when he's wearing the Spider-Man suit than he does when he's just wearing clothes.
Yeah, when he's regular Miles Morales and he has all the clothes on and he has his curly top and everything like that, he definitely looks older because of his height. It is really his height that's doing it to me as far as like my perception of him, because they don't give him any muscle mass or anything like that. Like he still looks relatively small, I would say, but like when he's in that costume, I agree, he definitely looks like he shrinks down a bit, because you can't really see height when somebody's wearing a onesie. It's harder to discern someone's height in a onesie, whereas when you see him in regular clothes, you're like, damn, he's actually tall as shit. But I do like that. And I like the whole thing where he can't tell his family, and it's just, he even contemplates it at one point where he's saying, I wonder what it would be like if I did tell him. And they show a fake simulation of it where he tells them and they hug him really tight, and he goes, maybe in another universe.
Yep.
That's really cool.
Yep. Yeah, I love little shit like that. This movie was dope. Like I said, I think going back to it, especially when the third one is out, I think it would actually make a great family movie. Like, I know it's not your typical family movie, so to speak, but I think it would be a really good family movie to watch all 3 of them, but even more specifically, these 2, or this one and probably the next one. Even though it's a serious movie, it's got its jokes or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's a great movie to watch with family, brother, sister, mom, dad, whatever.
Yeah. So did you guys get the part where Gwen, instead of doing what she was supposed to do in 1610, she went to go see Miles instead, and that is the reason why Spot ended up becoming more powerful, because he ended up getting to that Avermax place in that verse while she was basically dating Miles? That is what happened, right?
Yeah, because she was supposed to be on him, and then instead of being on him, she just put like a little camera to watch that area or whatever. and then she went to go see Miles, and then I guess she took too long, and like whatever happened, and then
Jessica
if she
drops in on her and she's like, "Yo, did you fucking capture that guy?" And she's like, about that." And then a little assistant chick comes up and she's like watching him zoom through verses now.
yeah.
He's like, yeah, he's doing this.
Yeah, if she had done her job, she would have probably stopped him. Because at that point, he wasn't all that yet. He was still like a scrub. And Miles damn near beat him, like apprehended him, but didn't finish him off
Right.
at that time. Like if Gwen just went, and Gwen had so much more experience at that point. If she just went there and did her job, like she would have stopped him.
Yeah, and that's really cool because then they start explaining the whole Spider-Verse, and he calls it the Spider-Verse, like Miles does. But then Miguel's pompous ass, he's being so pretentious. He calls it like the Arachna. It's some crazy name, and then he says, "You know what? That actually does sound stupid."
Yep.
And Miles just kind of stares at him without saying like, "Yeah, I agree." Miles just has the face like, "Yeah, I agree." I love that. Like he doesn't say it.
Something I thought watching this movie, we just watched The Matrix 4, and one of our big complaints about The Matrix 4. Wait, what'd you say, Cam?
Oh goodness.
Oh, that movie. That is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire
life. It is
life.
top 10 worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
And one of the things that's very bad about it is how meta the movie is, how much the movie knows it's a movie, and the meta writing. It's like so fucking bad. And in watching this movie, Across the Spider-Verse, they handled being meta in a really good way. So, for example, a big plot point of the movie is like disrupting the canon. The canon is something that like we talk about, fans, like, oh, what is canon? Like, what's in the Dragon Ball Z canon? Like,
right.
oh, BoJack's not canon. So they brought in like the canon into this movie, which is kind of a meta concept because that's not something that gets talked about inside a series. It's something fans talk about, but they talk about it and they bring it in a way where it's just like they're just talking about like the stability of the timeline, so to speak, and like all of the universes. And they do it in a way where it feels meta because we use the word canon, but it's integrated into the story in a way where it doesn't feel like they're breaking the fourth wall or anything like that. Like it feels like an honest integration into the lore and the story that's happening in this movie.
I love the explanation of canon events. I love how they showed Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield literally crying with their individual Uncle Bens. I think that is such a cool touch for an animated movie to have that in there where you see real live action stuff like that going on in the background. I love how they do that little thing where they pan out and you see all of the Spider-Men holding their dead relative. And how this is what makes us who we are, because when he talks to Peter Parker about that part, he goes, are we just going to let him die? Like, what the fuck? Why would we do that? If you knew about it, would you not change it? And Peter is like, listen, man, these events are what makes us who we are. Like, if it wasn't for my Uncle Ben, I wouldn't be here right now. Most of us wouldn't be here right now, he says.
Yeah, there's even the part where like he knows his dad's about to die, and he says like, and they're like, you can't save him because like your universe will collapse. And he's like, we're Spider-Man. Spider-Man always does both. And Peter Parker cuts him off. He's like, not always. Like,
yeah,
like we can't always, like it feels like we always get it done, but there's been times in our lives, in our history, and it'll happen in the future that like things will go bad. And then there's another great mentor Peter moment where he's explaining to him like sometimes bad shit happens and like it sucks and it's horrible. He's like, but good stuff happens too.
Yeah.
And it's just like another really good like mentor moment where he's trying to just talk to him and say like, look, I don't want your dad to die either, but like in this instance, there's kind of nothing we can do about it, and trying to get him to accept it and stuff.
I really like that in a Mumbattan world, he was not supposed to save that captain.
Yeah.
That guy was supposed to die. And because he saved him, that caused one of those, catastrophic Nexus events or whatever. And that's when Miguel got really mad at him and everything. He's like, yeah, that guy was supposed to die in that verse. And now I don't know what the fuck is going to happen because you saved him and you weren't supposed to. And it is a kind of a little plot twist too, because Gwen kind of tries to stop him, but she makes it seem like she's doing it to protect him. And in reality, she's trying to stop him from, negating a canon event from happening. But she ends up letting him go and do it anyway to just, fuck it, let me see what happens. Because I really don't want to stop him from saving someone's life. Like, that's actually a hard decision to make.
Yeah, she doesn't want to stop him from doing what seems like the right thing to do. Like, that's kind of like one of the struggles. It's like, and I feel like all the Spider-Men have that feeling where like they all feel like, man, we aren't doing and Miles brings it up like we're supposed to fucking save people.
Yeah.
And the only one that's like hardcore okay with it is Miguel. He's just like, we are saving people by letting these people die.
Yeah, I think Jessica was really hardcore for a while too. She was basically, that's why she's his right hand man, because she was always with the shits. And so every time it came down to Miguel's word against somebody else, she was like, listen, I told you that if you mess this up, I was not going to back you. And she lets Gwen have it. Like, she tells her, like, I gave you a chance, I gave you an hour, and you fucked it up. So now we're going to do things by the book. And she's one of the people that gets recruited by Miguel in the end game to go and actually fix everything, which is basically just capture Miles Morales and detain him.
She puts in work for being pregnant. I just
Yo,
for a mantle like Spider-Man, having a mantle like that, destiny is a big thing. So it's just like looking at that web of the Spider-Verse is like, you gotta live this life the way it's supposed to be. Or you're gonna mess a lot of shit up. So it's just like, I need you to do this thing exactly the way it's gonna happen. People are gonna die, but you're gonna rise from it because you're Spider-Man. And that was the preemptions of the movie for the most part. That's what Miguel was trying to tell him. But not every hero has it. Superman, the mantle of just being Superman is just like perceiving hope, and Batman is just like getting over a tragic incident. But it's just like, it doesn't you can write your own future for that Iron Man mantle, Captain America mantle. You can write your own future. Spider-Man, this is it. This is the web is this. This is going to happen.
Yep. He said
do this. And then
Miguel says being Spider-Man means sacrifice. He's like, that's the job. That's what you signed up for. And he's like, no, that's not. Like, Miles tells him that's not what being Spider-Man is. We're supposed to save people. And so they tell this man, your dad's going to die in 2 days. And he's not having it. They try to lock him into one of those fucking fancy ass electric cage things. And luckily his suit has this ability to absorb things, like absorb power from things and then shoot it back out, which they show that in the new Spider-Man game that's coming out too as one of his key abilities. That is broken as hell that he could just do that.
Well, something that's cool, at least if I understand what happened in the movie, is he built up a bunch of charge from the one barrier, and he's like building up charge there, and Gwen and the other Spider-Man are like, do we have to do something? Do you want our help? He's like, shut up. And then he's like doing it, and then Hobie just comes in and breaks through it.
Yeah.
And he weakened it, but in that moment, Miles never released the charge. So when he gets locked in the cage, he doesn't even do any, like, he just, from what I understand, he didn't suck in any charge from that cage. He just released all the charge he already, because it was like really fast. He didn't spend time like weakening it and charging up. So he just like broke out of the cage with the charge he had saved from earlier. And then if you see really quick, it flashes to Hobie and he like smirks, almost as if he kind of knew that was going to happen, or knew that he still had the charge and shit. Like,
maybe.
It was kind of,
yeah, that's a good analysis right there. I didn't really catch that, like that he was saving the charge, because when I watched it, I'm pretty sure he does absorb some energy from that shield cage thing. But maybe I'm telling myself that that's what happened because that's how he always does it.
Yeah.
But it probably is like what you're saying, is that I don't know if I noticed on the second or first time watching it,
because it happens fast. Because the first time we see him doing, he's sitting there charging, and it's like taking a long time.
Well, the difference is that I will say this in context. The difference is that the shield that he was absorbing that fucking Spot put up was gigantic. It was fucking giant. And then the one that he does for the little cage, the cage was his size. It was really small. Yeah. It was only enough to like cover his body. And so I could see it not taking nearly as long to like break or destroy that particular one. But I also do think that there's merit to what you're saying in terms of like, he never released the shit he charged up from that big ass shield.
And I just feel like it happened like instant. And then at the same time, like they show Hope, he like smirks.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch that. That's actually it. I love stuff like that. I love,
really cool.
That's like an Easter egg at that point. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, he never released the charge from that, but he was sucking it up, and then Hobie crashes it with a motorcycle, meaning that he never had to do anything with it. It's just still there. Okay, so he finds his dad's gonna die.
Can I ask real quick though? I don't know if this gets fully explained in the first movie. Why does he have that ability? Like, why,
bro?
Like,
I don't know.
Why does he have electric powers? Like, what is that?
Why can he turn invisible?
Yeah, that's another
that too.
thing.
Like, I guess it's just part of like his spider, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because he turns invisible, and it's so good that the other spider people can't detect him.
Yeah, they don't even. Their spider senses don't even.
It doesn't trigger spider sense.
It cut off spider sense when he turns invisible. But if you don't have any malice in your intent, but I'll say this: it's just like if you don't have any malice, it's weird how they write it. If you don't have any malice, you just don't cut off people's spider senses. But there is an issue in Spider-Man where how sensitive his spider sense is. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna hit my toe on this leg of this table. I'm gonna
Yeah,
overcook
yeah.
pancakes. I'm gonna step in this puddle of water. How it's just from a one. The whole issue is about how 1 to 10 his spider sense was, and
Ah,
just
that's
him
interesting.
missing an alarm by minutes. His spider sense will go off. It's 24 hours. It doesn't go off. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a sensitivity issue. It's like a person can walk by him with a gun. It'll go to 7, just like, oh, this person has a gun, whether he's
Yeah.
willing or not. His spider sense is letting him know there is danger, but he doesn't know what the danger is. That's why his
Yeah.
reaction is how high it is to coincide with his spider sense.
Yeah, his spider sense with his reactions are the only reason why they'd be able to swing around the way they do. The way they're able to swing around and go through fucking
Yeah.
cars and shit, that's a combination of their spider sense kind of alerting what's around them and then their reactions reacting to all of that. So it's crazy that Miles, when he's invisible, like he was like basically breathing on Gwen's neck and like she did not know he was there.
Yeah, or like how Venom doesn't trigger Spider-Man's spider sense because they had a bond. They were one at one point, so it's not a danger to him. It's just like you can't trigger my spider sense because we were
Oh,
one. We were
is
a
that how that
symbiotic.
works?
Yeah, we were a symbiotic thing. He prefers Peter to Eddie at early points of their comic. He prefers Peter Parker to Eddie, but Eddie and the symbiote got a similar bond. And in the Offspring Carnage, you retain those same Offspring effects on Spider-Man still, so that's why you can't trigger my spider sense or any other symbiote can't trigger my spider because it's still off brand of the original.
Right, they all come from the Venom. That's interesting. I like the idea that the spider sense, as broken as it is, it does have some flaws, some weaknesses to it. Because a lot of stuff you could just say, well, that doesn't make sense. How could he possibly ever get attacked by that? Or how could they ever be attacked by him if he has spider sense or they all have spider sense? Like why are they ever able to get really hit by anything?
That's one of my biggest problems with the Flash. Is like the Flash is so absurdly broken. When you see the way he sees things in like Flash time, how fast he is, how does it ever make sense? Like
Yeah.
it runs and turns a corner and there's a trap surprise waiting for him. That doesn't matter. He's
Yeah.
so fucking fast that he'll turn the corner and there's absolutely no reason why he can't see, dissect everything there and just go around the ice floor. Like, oh, I put some ice on the floor when you turn the corner. Like, you would see that so.
Is that the stuff that happens in a CW show? Like, does he end up
It
struggling?
happens in, in everything. Like it even one of the best. Like I really like the Flashpoint Paradox DC animated movie. Like that movie's great. But I remember early on in the movie, there's a part where like Flash runs, he like turns a corner, and I think Captain Cold like ices the floor, and he slips on it, and it's like you're the fucking Flash. Like you're fast enough to cause the Flashpoint Paradox. You're telling me you're not fast enough to notice him fucking ice on the ground? Like get out of here.
I
And,
forgot
but
that
in this
Captain Cold is one of his villains. Yeah.
in the CW, they'll do stuff where like he'll be chasing someone, he'll be like chasing a car, and then like something will happen and he'll have to stop for like a second, and the car will go around the corner, and like, oh, he got away. It's like, no, he didn't.
What?
You're the Flash.
Got away is crazy.
You're the like you can run the whole city in a second. Like he didn't get away. I promise.
Got away is fucking wild, especially because
the show's 50 minutes. You got to extend the show.
You know what though? I guess the Flash is one of those characters that it has to be very difficult to write any real threat to him without you just writing some bad shit, because he's so overpowered. And even so, I don't want to talk about it right now because we'll probably end up doing a podcast on the movie, but the new Flash movie that came out was very good and he's just ridiculous. But one of the things I read about the Flash a long time ago is that he can move at the speed of a picosecond. And I had to Google what the fuck that was. And it was like 1/1000th of 1/100th of 1/110th of a second was a picosecond, something crazy like that. And I'm like, okay, so like whatever that is just so outrageously fast that nothing could, like you said, nothing could ever threaten him. He could kill all life on Earth in an instant. Like he could kill everyone.
Like there's times when like he literally runs back in time, but then they'll make a big deal about him going like Mach 2. It's like, bro, he ran back in time. Like airplanes, like jets don't fly back in time. So like I thought he could always go Mach 2.
Yeah, like what are we talking about, right? At that point. Because I also think that he's so fast that sometimes it doesn't make sense that he could run past people and not hurt them. Like that stuff like that also is just kind of ridiculous. Like you're running so fast that the wind, first of all, I can be moved by regular wind outside. Like there are times when I go outside and it's windy and it's so strong that it literally moves me and I have to walk against it, like struggle to walk against it. If the Flash fucking went full speed past me, I should just die.
That's the thing though, right? So the Flash, like he's written crazy. He's been written for, I don't know, since the 40s or whatever. I don't know when he was made.
Yeah.
But I know Superman's the 30s. But anyway, now that we're in the future and so many years have passed, you got to now be like, okay, I have to understand if I give him all of these powers, it's hard to write. You could just choose not to give him all those powers.
Yeah.
You could choose to make him really fast, but not fucking Silver Age Flash or whatever. You know what I mean? Like you could choose to not make him do all the crazy shit.
I mean, it's the same thing with Superman. Superman, like if you're falling, Superman flies up and catch you, your body should just break.
Yeah, you're gonna die.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Superman should not be able to catch someone falling from a 20-story building, whatever, like that. Not 20 feet, 20 stories. Like he shouldn't be able to just catch you, and you're just like, all right, well, that's fine. Like, no, you should be in pain. That man's body can reflect bullets against his will. Like he can't even turn it off. It's like, nope, those bullets can never penetrate me.
But all of this is why, and that said, Marvel does get ridiculous too. But in general, and I think this is the opinion of a lot of people, Marvel's characters tend to be a lot more grounded than DC's.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man, as broken as he is, he just feels a lot more grounded. Like as broken as the Spider Sense is, like he's not as broken as the Flash.
I think the entire Justice League is out of control outside of Batman.
Yeah.
Outside of Batman, like Wonder Woman is insane. She beats Superman in a fight. She can fly. She thought she needed an invisible jet. She doesn't. Like everything about that character is insane. She's absolutely absurd. She's one of the physically, she's one of the strongest. Green Lantern at his peak just has some of the craziest feats ever. The Flash, I wouldn't even talk about him again. We already did. Martian Manhunter can literally he can phase through and kill everybody on Earth in a second. Like all these characters are just so broken. Like Martian Manhunter is absolutely outrageous. He can also mind control the whole human race.
I'll tell you what, the Avengers don't want it with the Justice League. But that said, I think the Avengers are better written than the Justice League.
Yes, like Captain America and them, they're all, like you said, way more grounded, way more believable. Then you get like, okay, they have a god, they have Thor, right? Like an actual god is on their team. But that's like the most outlandish one on the base Avengers. I'm not talking about like the later Avengers where it starts to get cosmic and all that, because then it's just like, well, what are we talking about? But yeah, Super Serum Soldier and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is fine. Like, this is fine. This is not too crazy.
Even when you get like the unknown stuff, like when he said Wonder Woman in canon is the 7th fastest character in DC.
Yeah, like what are we doing?
Insane. I did not know that.
For no reason. She's behind all the speeches, but she's faster than just like it makes no sense. She's faster than just like Shazam. She's faster than like Godspeed. She's faster than just like the other Flash. Like they rank her at number 7. And Martian Manhunter in the New 52 era, it took all 7 of them to beat him.
Damn.
And he was bodying everybody. It's just like we were going to recruit this guy, and then we realized how strong he was, and we had to get him off the planet. It's just like the last panel of the war with when he did the first like 6 issues, and he fought Darkseid from the movie. If you watch Justice League War, the last panel, we was going to recruit Martian Manhunter, but the last panel, he's bodying everybody.
Yeah. That movie was great. Yeah. The Justice League War was great. And the early New 52, I didn't read it past like the first maybe year or two, just because, and this is something I wanted to ask Cam maybe after the podcast, but it's really hard for me to find comic books online. I can find manga and I can manga, but I have a really hard time finding comic books. And there was a period of time where I was buying comics just because I really wanted to read like the New 52 when they restarted. I was like, oh, this is a good chance to like be up to date. But like, I'm not spending all that money every fucking month. Like, fuck that. So anyway,
it gets pretty. I remember I was spending like $40 a week on comic books, and I was like, I got to stop. This ain't it.
Yeah, it's a lot. But yeah, Spider-Man's dope. This movie was amazing. Was there anything we didn't cover yet?
I think
gotta be the chase.
The chase scene was absolutely outrageous. Honestly, everything about that scene, not only was it hilarious, but I just think that it was so well done. Seeing all the Spider Cat like clawed him up and then jumped on his face and shot a web in his face. I thought that was hilarious. The T-Rex one just trying to tail whip him and shit.
He was like, "This can't get any weirder," and the fucking T-Rex showed up.
Yeah,
like, bro,
I love so much about it. I love how Peter Parker with his baby, they started to chase after him, and they actually found him when he was kind of in a ducky spot, and he started talking to him very calmly about everything. And then he was like, "Listen, I want to have a calm conversation with you." And he's like, "We already did. Like, there's nothing else that I want to talk to you about, bro. Like,
I like the one Spider-Man that kind of had like the Doc Ock arms.
Yes, he came out. He was like, "He's on your back." And then the guy, he's like, "Is there something on my face?" And he was like, "It's on your back." And he turns around, and Spider-Man, like Miles, is just on his actual back. And then I just like kicks up. The music for that scene, the chase, was really well done. I think the funniest part of the chase for me though is when the music cut off and they did a really quick side scene where you saw Spider-Man in therapy with a therapist Spider-Man.
Oh my God, yeah.
That shit, he's like, and then I looked at my uncle, he's like, and let me guess, he died. And then you just see Miles crash in with all the other Spider people. That shit had me dying in the movie. Like, Spider-Man in therapy with himself is the most unhinged shit ever. He's like, and then I looked at my uncle, he's like, and let me guess, he died.
He died. That's fucked up. What a horrible therapist, by the way.
It was so good. Yeah, nothing. Like, you fucking died.
I didn't think of this until just now, but was that Octavius, the Spider-Man with the Doc Ock arms? Was that actually just Otto?
Oh,
like as
maybe.
But they got a different. Well, it could have been superior, but they did have different renditions of them in early '90s with the Doc Ock arms. So it could have been that. I mean, you just right into your imagination at that point. You're gonna use
Miguel's theme in general, just to talk about other stuff that I have only a few more points here, but Miguel's theme, when he first arrives, right, the beginning of the movie, he first comes in and he tackles the Vulture. His theme is evil, period. If you listen to that theme again,
he is wild.
Look at the character when he comes in. Everything about him screams villain to me, honestly. And his theme is very villainous. It is.
I mean, even his Spider-Man outfit, like his Spider-Man outfit is hard boiled.
Like if he became a villain, you wouldn't be surprised. Basically, you'd be like, "Yeah, I could see it." Like he already is wearing the clothes, is what you're saying. Like he already looks like that guy. That's something. Also, he mentioned, and this was cool too. He mentioned, "Don't even get me started on what that Doctor Strange did."
Yeah.
And so that's just a little nod to No Way Home. In the beginning of the movie, when Jessica comes in and like Miguel comes in, he starts talking to Gwen about people who have fucked up timelines and stuff like that. He's like, "Don't even get me started on that Doctor Strange." He's like, "Doctor Strange sounds like he shouldn't be doing medicine."
I need them. That line was funny as shit.
Yeah.
I need them to bring into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales into the MCU. Like I would, because we've now seen this movie with like live action characters in it. I need an MCU movie to happen where some timeline fuckery happens, and then like we just get animated Miles Morales like in an MC. Like everything else is normal, but you see like animated Miles Morales. I just need that, even if it's like a quick cameo. But I need it to happen at least once.
That would be really cool. I like so let's see, what else do I have here? So they say that he's the original Anomaly. That's like the big secret. Even Hobie says, "How much did you tell him?" You know, when they're in Mountbatten or whatever.
And he's like, "I guess not enough."
I guess you didn't tell him enough. And then he finds out when Miguel's angry with him, like, "Yeah, you're the original Anomaly. Because of you, this guy didn't become Spider-Man." And now there's a verse with no Spider-Man, which is funny because that's 42, which we go to at the end of the movie. So there's a little foreshadowing there that there's a verse with no Spider-Man.
He's snapping on him. And Peter's like, "This isn't how we agreed we would tell him." And then he's like, "You knew?" Miles was like, "What the?" Like, you guys all knew.
Yeah, like everyone knew, including Gwen, which actually hurts him. Gwen ends up getting sent forcibly back home after Miles escapes. So Miguel sends her back. He's like, "Yeah, you're not coming with me, actually. You're going home." And that's like, to her, that's a really big punishment because she hasn't faced her dad in a very long time after the whole argument they had about everything. And she revealed herself before she left in the beginning. Yeah. And so she goes back to him. And this is so cool to me how her revealing who she is to her father makes him quit being a police officer so he doesn't become captain, which means he's no longer in line to die. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really cool because that already showed you that destiny can be changed. Because that was what was that was his destiny. His destiny was to become captain and he was going to die. And she was accepting it. When Miles said to her, when he found out about his dad about to die in 2 days, he said, "What about your dad? Isn't he a captain?" And she looks at him and she's kind of sad, but she doesn't say anything. Yep. He's like, "What the fuck? You're just going to let your dad die? Like, you're willing to accept that?" And she's just, no words.
It is what it ain't.
And it was, they did have like once again, a really beautiful scene when she goes back home and she talks to her dad and like she's about to leave and he's like, "Will you look at me?" And she just turns. She's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm looking at you." Like,
that's such a
once again, like
such a
once again, like teenager shit. Like it feels authentic. It's like when we watched No Way Home and we were saying how authentic it felt when MJ and Peter were talking on the phone and how corny it was.
Yes,
Like,
bro.
like they really do a good job getting these teenagers to feel like teenagers in these moments. It doesn't feel like you're watching fucking Grease where they're 30 years old.
Yeah, or Glee, where they're all just gay. But yeah, I totally agree. It definitely seems very believable, the conversations they have. I like that Hobie quit in the middle of the chase. Just for the record, I quit. And he just backs into the portal.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
such a
Hobie is the man. Oh, I love when he took his mask off. First of all, he takes his mask off and they like censor his face. They don't let you see it, which I thought was interesting. And then the next time he takes his mask off, Miles was like, "How are you even cooler with the mask off?" He's like, "I've always been this cool.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do the English accent, but like,
So that's the
I've
guy
always
from
been this cool."
that's the guy from Get Out, apparently, too.
Yeah,
The main character. He's also in Black Panther.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
They had a nice voice acting cast here. So
Yeah, Issa Rae. So she's from Insecure. Daniel Kaluuya is the guy's name who does Hobie. He's also the main character Get Out. He's also in the first Black Panther movie. He's also in Nope. He's in a ton of movies now, but he's
in an episode of Black Mirror. I think in like season 1 or season 2.
You're also correct. He's definitely in Black Mirror. But yeah, Daniel Kaluuya, very famous actor at this point. He's in it. Issa Rae, who is the creator, producer, and all the stuff of Insecure, which is a very popular show, amazing show on HBO. It actually is completely over now. But one of my favorite shows I used to watch, it used to come on after Game of Thrones, which was like the combo on Sundays. It made Sunday the best day of the week. And hearing her voice acting, she sounds the way Jessica looks and the way Issa Rae sounds, it's a match made in heaven. Like she sounds exactly how she looks to me. So I just love so many things about the voice acting as well. I'm glad you brought that up, Cam, because outside of just the aesthetics and the music, the voice acting choices, there's also a lot of other actors voice acting that I forgot.
I know your boy, you hate him.
No.
Oscar Isaac, let's shout out Midnight for going to sleep on Moon Knight, but he did an amazing job as Miguel.
Yes, he does actually sound really good and brooding as Miguel. It's not that I hate him. I think that Moon Knight and all of the Marvel shows are basically just shit. Like the Marvel shows are actually fucking awful, and the only ones that are watchable at this point are Loki, WandaVision. That's pretty much it. The rest of them are honestly like I would never willingly watch them again because they're that bad. I didn't even bother going through She-Hulk because I'll pass. Moon Knight, literally, it's funny that the name is Moon Knight because all I did was go to sleep several times on that show, and everyone I talked to, including Cam and Reese, my other two friends who've watched or tried to watch Moon Knight, they tell me that it puts them to sleep too. I just think that's hilarious. The fucking show's called Moon Knight, and everyone who watches it somehow goes to sleep.
I still haven't started that yet. Maybe I'll start that when I got to go to sleep.
And apparently, yeah, please. And apparently, the newest show, the Secret Invasion thing, has the worst rating of any Marvel show so far. It is. Like
I'm a little sad at that because I was like hype after seeing this movie. I was like kind of Marvel hype, and then randomly I saw a trailer for Secret Invasion, and I was like, "Oh shit, this shit looks hype. The trailer looks hyped as fuck." And then I was gonna watch it. I mean, I'll still watch it, but that's that it has a bad rating.
I right now has like a 69%, which is much lower than like pretty much all the other shows, and it's just getting tanked. But I haven't been really keeping up with them because honestly, they just have been mid or worse.
Yeah, they got away from me. For me, it's just like I wanted to keep up with them, but you like fucking miss one week and then you turn around and there's 3 Marvel shows.
Yeah, I hate that. We did get overwhelmed. Yeah, after a while, you're like, okay, I'm a bit fatigued from all the Marvel shows. Like I can't even keep up. There was one every week. They tried to fucking basically do a Japanese manga type thing where you have to keep up with a show every week of the year. Like, no, bro, I'm not doing that. And these shows, some of them are long. Like I'll pass.
Yeah, and like I think the last one I watched was Hawkeye, and like we said when we watched it, I had fun. I had fun watching it because it's like kind of silly, but it was bad. Like it was a bad show. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like it wasn't good. Like you would not willingly be like, let me put that Hawkeye back on.
Yeah, and so like I watched Hawkeye. Like I said, I kind of had fun watching it, but the show was bad. And then I think after that, I wasn't in a rush to watch the next one. Whereas if Hawkeye was fire, I would have been in a rush to watch the next Marvel show. You know what I mean?
I wasn't at Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. era on ABC before the network came out. I'm glad y'all wasn't in that Inhuman show that was in IMAX theaters. The first episode was in IMAX theaters for no fucking reason.
Oh man. I didn't watch that because of you, Cam. I don't know. I remember one day I went down to where we used to all go to like play Yu-Gi-Oh and just hang out and play fighting games and shit. and I was there, and it was when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like first starting. And I remember hearing you just absolutely shit on that show. I was like, all right, well, I'm not watching it. I was like, Cam is like the guy.
The first season was Scooby Doo Mysteries. That's all it fucking was. And it didn't take itself seriously until like season 4. And then it got good, and then it got bad. I mean,
Yeah, I was like, Cam knows more about Marvel than anybody I know, and
Same.
I was like, so if he's telling me this show sucks, like I'm not even trying it. Like fuck it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm like, I'll pass. And yeah, so the Marvel fatigue definitely kicked in. This is technically Sony, the Spider-Man movie that we've been watching the last several years.
I wanted to say that earlier. How good is this movie compared to the fact that everybody says like Sony can't write a Spider-Man movie and they like dogging on them for like the Andrew Garfield ones and stuff. And like, to be fair, especially Amazing Spider-Man 2, like not a good movie.
Dear God, yes.
But it's impressive how fucking good Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, like it's still Sony. Like MCU Studios did not write this movie. Like Sony made this movie.
Right. And you saying that, so also No Way Home is Sony too.
Yeah, but I think those ones are written or at least co-written by MCU.
Yeah, I think that Marvel does have their hand in it. I mean, they probably have their hand in them in general, but like, yes, it just seems to me that when Sony is involved, I'm basically saying Sony is the special ingredient in all of this. Because Sony owns Spider-Man. That is just how. No.
Well, like they don't own the comic books.
No, but like but the video game
rights to Spider-Man.
They own Spider-Man. Like they right now, like Spider-Man is coming out on only one system, right? Like that is. Yeah. So Sony owns Spider-Man, and it seems like when they are involved, it just always tends to be like really good nowadays. I don't know what's been going on. I say that to say the last couple Marvel movies have been absolutely fucking terrible. You guys are coping with Guardians of the Galaxy 3. That movie's not good. Neither was Thor.
Seen it yet.
Thor: Love and Thunder was not good. The fucking was that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was a rant. Like all of the last several Marvel movies after No Way Home came out have just been like, what are we watching? Like, what is this?
I haven't seen any of them.
If you to both of your points, I mean, Marvel has dropped the ball, Quantumania, stuff like that. Just like has been really just.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. But that, dear God, that was not.
He's like
that was not good either.
Sony tries.
I forgot about it because it was so bad. I forgot.
When Sony tries, they just fail. Venom 2.
Yeah, like what the fuck are those movies? Because it doesn't make sense that they can make something so good and then they also can make Morbius, is it? And Venom.
Morbius.
Like,
yeah.
I was on a train from here to DC and I watched Morbius and I saw Tyrese as an FBI agent. I was like, off. But it's nothing for me to do. I'm not tired.
I can't defend those. I can't. I'm not even going to try.
I see a trailer for Kraven the Hunter. I say, they got Russell Crowe in there. I'm like, how'd you? Well, Russell Crowe can take any check for right now. I guess.
Yeah. He's at the end of his
in there. Years. Cool, but Sony's this is new for Sony. Sony's been fucking up. Ghost Rider.
I never saw that. I never saw Ghost Rider.
Those movies are bad.
Fantastic Four, the other Fantastic Four, Michael B. Jordan.
That's what I'm.
Like, what the fuck?
But that's what I'm saying. How did they get these two movies so right?
I don't know.
Like, how did they got these two movies like my favorite meme? One of my favorite memes is when they did it was Goku and Vegeta. It was like, let's go fight someplace empty. And then it was the movie theater for Morbius. That shit made me laugh so hard.
Oh no,
no, not the shade.
I just want to know who was in the room and just like, we're going to redo Fantastic Four. It's like, let's make Human Torch a nigger and just go on from there. I'm just like, who was in the room and just like, let's do it. And it was like, we adopted this black kid and just like, yeah. Like, no, someone's the adopted one. I was like, what?
Yeah, I don't know what has been going on. But for some reason, maybe it's the colored people just being involved. I don't know. I just feel like something about the Spider-Verse movies.
Blade 1
was fun. I like
the first Blade with Wesley Snipes.
Yeah.
Blade 1 was fantastic. They just got it right.
I thought you were. I'm about to say I like Blade.
Blade 2 was good. I love Blade 3. Everybody has those bad movies that they just love. I love Blade.
I've been there.
I love Triple H was in there. I love the lines.
I forgot Triple H was in there.
Triple H was in there. I love how Wesley Snipes did not give a fuck about anything. He was high the whole entire time. He had his own trailer.
No, not high.
He called Ryan Reynolds a cracker every time he was.
Oh shit!
I love it. Everything about
And he didn't do his taxes. My
Batista
man was
not Batista, the guy from Prison Break, the older brother was Dracula. I love
oh,
how they just didn't give a fuck in Blade 3. I forgot my sword. Jessica Biel was in there just shooting arrows. I was like, what in
I
the
forgot
fuck?
my sword.
I forgot my sword is the best line.
ah.
Second best line was Raiden when he said don't fuck with my things. I love it. Blade 3 is phenomenal.
Don't fuck with my things.
we're
Don't
gonna,
fuck with my things. And this is the FBI agent saying this. I'm like,
we're gonna have to do because I haven't seen all of those movies in a long. Wait, did the Blade remake ever come out? We got to do a podcast on Blade. Is the point that I'm getting to?
I don't think
Please
so.
go watch Blade 3. Please go watch Blade 3.
But the Blade, what isn't there a Blade remake coming?
Yes,
Mhm.
because at the end of the Eternals, right? The guy who comes to see Jon Snow, I believe, is Blade.
Yeah.
Yeah, they finally got the rights back to Blade, and they're gonna.
Isn't it
do
just that guy who plays every dark skinned character now? God, what's his name? He's from Moonlight and Green
Yeah,
Book.
yeah.
Mahershala Ali. That's his
Oh,
name.
I like that. I like that actor a lot, though.
Me too. I mean, he's fucking won 2 Oscars in like 3 years. He's insane.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
He's insane. But he's pretty much every time there's a role for like a dark skinned black person, he's just like they just call him.
He was by far the best part of the Luke Cage show when Netflix was doing the Marvel shows.
Yeah.
When
The
he
Luke-
was-
Oh my, yes, when he was Cottonmouth. The first half of Luke Cage, I think, is like one of my favorite shows I've ever seen. And then the second half of Luke Cage, I think, is like not that. Like I don't know.
Yeah, those Netflix shows are vastly like they were hit and miss. Like
Yeah,
I think Jessica Jones and Iron Fist was the miss. Daredevil just hit on all cylinders.
Daredevil was fucking
On all
awesome.
cylinders. And Luke Cage just got the middle area, just like I was good in this part, just bad on this.
Yeah, I agree.
I still want to watch Daredevil, the TV show that everyone says is good.
Yeah, Daredevil's dope.
Amazing.
Yeah, I heard that it's like good, like just flat out good, and I still haven't seen it.
You should watch Daredevil, and you'll see a good show. And then you can watch Iron Fist and cringe.
It's like awful.
Iron
It's
Fist is
awful.
terrible.
Yeah, it does. It's always interesting to find out how on one show they can just hit an absolute knockout, and then another show is like, how did we
y'all
get here?
Yeah,
And that's basically
all-
what we're saying, I guess, about Sony too. Is like they make,
all Iron Fist is white boy karate. That's all.
which I watched the what's the Karate Kid back in the day, Rocky. And all them. I used to love that movie growing up, but I probably acknowledge now, it probably didn't age well, but yeah.
I watch Iron Fist, white boy karate. And
You know what? I know we're on a tangent, but you know what I want to see? I saw it on the trailers for when I went to go see Spider-Man. That new Teenage
Oh yeah.
Ninja Turtles movie looks fucking sick.
Yes, that actually looks good. I love when he said, "You read it on me." He's like, "Don't say that word."
Yeah, he's like, don't say it like that.
Yeah, don't say it like that. I thought that was so funny because obviously,
really love.
their master is a rat. But yeah, that looks good. And the art style was pretty cool too. They said that a lot of people are taking chances on unique art styles following Into the Spider-Verse from 2018. That there have been a lot of Pixar movies and all types of other movies that have been made since then. And like there was a YouTube video that I was watching that showed it, and it was showing all these movies that came out that were animated. And it was like, look at all of these things that were not done before Into the Spider-Verse was a huge hit. And now people are doing all of these crazy techniques and stuff that they never were willing to take a chance on. Everyone stuck to the formula, which was Disney, Pixar, the way Toy Story looks. Let's make every movie look like Toy Story. Let's make every movie look like Frozen. And that was like the peak of animation over here for a very long time. And now finally, because of Into the Spider-Verse, and now, of course, because of Across the Spider-Verse, you're going to see even more chances being taken because this movie is doing
So
phenomenal.
happy about that.
Same.
Yeah, I just seen Elemental with the children, and it was so just a visually good movie.
Oh
and
yeah, I heard that was good.
the story was pretty good. I mean, got Umar. We have a.
You know what I heard was good, which I was surprised at only because I feel like every live action Disney movie has sucked. I heard the new Little Mermaid's actually good. I haven't seen it
and
yet.
I found it to be absolutely fine.
It's
It's the exact same story. She gives up her voice to go on land. Ursula tricks her. She can't speak when she gets on the surface. It's the exact same story. But what I like about it, I did not know that the main character, Halle Bailey, I had no idea that girl
that she can sing?
Bro,
Yeah,
her vocals,
she can sing her ass off.
insane. Her vocals are fucking insane.
Did you know she did like exercises for the water hitter on her back scene? The epic iconic moment. She actually did like jaw, neck exercises and arc exercises.
I had no idea.
It took like 20 takes for her to just do that scene with a
Oh,
splash
wow.
back, and she's on a rock, and then it's the iconic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the iconic Little Mermaid scene.
Just for that alone, and it's just the amazing singing that she does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the singing, bro.
I'm
Oh my
actually
God.
interested in seeing it because a lot of the live action Disney movies have just been a disappointment. So I had no
Agreed.
interest in seeing this, but I've heard good things from it. So I was like, you know what, actually, and then to my absolute fucking shock, I heard Frasier say that the fucking Flash was good, and I was like,
Yeah,
what the fuck?
The Flash
So
is genuinely good. Like, honestly, so I've seen it twice. I liked it both times. I think that it's very entertaining. I think that the character, it sucks so bad that Ezra Miller is a nut job because
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know. I'm
he
not
like
a Flash.
kidnapped someone, right? Like
He did a lot, bro. He did a lot.
he did some wild shit.
Yeah, he did a lot. I'm not a Flash fan. Like, he's never been. When I was younger and I used to watch the Justice League, the Flash was never the character that I wanted to be. I basically always wanted to be Superman or Superman. So I never really cared for the Flash, and I always was a little bothered by the fact that the Flash is like technically faster. That always like bothered me a little bit because I was like, well, he still can't be Superman, but whatever. That's not even a point. I just used to always like low key kind of hate on the Flash. So So I didn't grow up knowing his lore, how he got his powers, what his villains were, or who they were, and all that stuff. So going into this Flash movie, I basically don't have real knowledge of the Flash. I'm saying this to say I have no idea if Ezra Miller is actually representative of what a Flash should be like. However, for me, someone who doesn't care about that character very often, I think that he made that character I just believe him. I just believe him as the Flash. He's very unhinged. It seems like he's always thinking really quickly. The way he talks is like he's always stuttering over his words almost because he's trying to say things so quickly, which I feel like should be how the Flash's character is, right? Like he should be someone who's always like quick. And in a movie, he's always hurried. Everything about him is like, I need this to happen really, really fast. Like everything is always like that. And I love the way Ezra Miller captures that part of the Flash. Whether that's a real thing or not, I have no idea. But
I mean, to your point with that, when I first watched Justice League movie and how erratic he was and how inexperienced he was as a Flash, I would get what you're saying. And then watching Grant Gustin do 9 seasons of the Flash is very polar opposite.
Yeah,
Flash.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's very just like cool, calm, collective, and just like trying to outdo himself in performance wise and the villain. He's only good at the villain he fights.
Yeah.
I'll say in terms of the CW Flash, Grant Gustin, I think other than the fact that the show does suck, but I still watch it. Like the show sucks. I think season 1's legitimately good, but the show sucks, and it only gets worse with each season. But when I look at him, he looks like the Flash. Like I think he's a great actor.
Look at who you're talking about. I don't know.
Every Flash though does have the emotional aspect of, okay, you lost your parents because of this, and this is your sole motive to free your dad. And they all get that part right. And then everything after that is basically just take it with a grain of salt. Just like,
yeah.
But this is what happened in the Flash. Do this right. Get this part down. That's it.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures of him, and I agree with Kenny. Like he does look like he looks like what a good Flash looks like.
Yeah.
Ezra out of costume doesn't really look cool or anything. Like he just looks like a nerdy ass white guy. Yeah, he looks very dweebish, and that doesn't change in the Flash movie. But what I will say is that the way he behaves in this movie, because he's now seasoned. So in the Flash movie, he is very like you guys were talking about in the Justice League movie how he was new. And it's a point in his own movie that he is like, I've been the Flash for a very long time and I'm very good at what I do. He's very, very good at it now. So I guess that's like, it's like the Dark Knight thing. The first, Batman Begins, he's just discovering his, I'm Batman now, whatever. And it's kind of mid. And then you get the Dark Knight and it's like, holy shit. You get a movie where he's actually seasoned. He's been in this role for a long time. Same thing with the new Batman movie that came out with Robert Pattinson. That movie, he's not really seasoned. He's like, he's been there for what, 2 years? He's been Batman for 2 years. So he's like, he tries things that just fail. Like blatantly in the movie, he like tries to do something that he gets hurt. And it's like, yeah, the older Batman would never do something like that because he just knows this is not how you approach certain situations. So I'm excited. That.
I'm excited to see that movie now. I'm probably not going to see it in theaters, but as soon as it hits like HBO or whatever, I'm probably going to check that shit out.
100% wait. It's not
HBO Max.
Yeah, it's not given see it in a movie theater. Like it's not given pay $20 to see it. If I didn't have the AMC pass, I would not pay for it twice. But I think that I gave it an 8 out of 10. So for me, that's very high. I watched it twice, and I will watch it a third time. There are so many things I can't wait till we both have seen it because I want to do an episode on it.
Yeah, I'm 100% down to do an episode. Like as soon as it hits HBO, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is on y'all agenda for an episode, just like going through each movie rendition of Batman and just like the parallels of each Bruce Wayne versus each Batman. Because it's just like we could all say, not we can all say, but there's a correlation just like, oh, Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield is the best Peter Parker, and then or vice versa. And then Tom Holland's a complete version of all three.
Right.
And if you go through like
George Clooney, Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer.
Michael Keaton is the best Batman.
Yeah. That's the one.
Robert Pattinson did an amazing job, I think, in both roles. And then I think Val Kilmer is very underrated as Batman, just the detective work that he did do versus an unhinged Riddler versus
I'll say this. I'm definitely down to do a all-encompassing Batman episode because I find the earlier movies to be fucking hilarious. I watch Batman and Robin probably once every like 3 years. And Mr. Freeze is
I used to watch those with my dad all the time.
Yo, bro, Mr. Freeze's lines is Arnold Schwarzenegger is unhinged in that movie, okay? Like, what'd you say, Cam?
The Ice Age, and I love Vivica A. Fox was a fucking henchwoman in that movie. I was just like, okay, everybody gotta get a start somewhere. So fair enough.
That movie is so good because of the bad lines. It's I'm definitely down to go through like the Batman movies. We want to do a whole episode on the Dark Knight, and probably the Dark Knight Rises because those are just two of the most iconic. That's what I feel like outside of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy was the first time that everyone on Earth realized the superhero genre can be a really good movie. Like they can
that's 100% true.
Yeah, you agree. Like that's the start of this is insane movie making using a superhero though.
The Dark Knight was the first time the entire public was like, oh, this is a good movie.
Yes.
Like this isn't a superhero movie. This is a good movie.
Yes. So I think that opened a lot of doors, and I think that it's worth talking about on something like the IMNerd podcast because it is just that good.
It's crazy.
I want to cover it.
It's crazy how far of a head start DC had because, like we said, Dark Knight and DC, like they made the first superhero movie that the entire public like agreed was good.
Yes,
and then somehow they dropped the ball and like they just let Marvel completely overtake them for so many years. And now recently,
I get what you're saying with that, but the amount of people that deny Man of Steel is an excellent Superman movie. It's just
Man of Steel is good.
I love Man of Steel.
It's appalling how people just disrespect that movie so much.
Wait, I didn't know people said that movie was bad.
Me
I didn't like how he broke Zod's neck and blah blah blah. He let Pa Kent die. Like, did you watch the movie?
Oh nah.
Like explain.
Me and Kenny loved it.
Yeah, Man of Steel was sick. Man of Steel
is the perfect Superman movie. You get all the aspects of him being Superman and Clark Kent. It's like I'm gonna take these good parts of Smallville and I'm gonna take these good parts of just like being a separate entity.
Yes,
being Superman and just like Zod and Freora and just like
Man of Steel has to be the best Superman movie ever made. Right?
Yeah, like can we not Cap easily?
I get it. The amount of property damage they did do, it will motivate Bruce Wayne to just be like, I don't agree with this.
Yeah,
in my city. So it hyped me up for Batman v Superman and then just crumbled because of Batman.
That movie's god awful.
I think that's where they fell apart because those three Batman movies were good. Like Batman Begins was okay, but Dark Knight was amazing, and I think Dark Knight Rises is good, but not as good as Dark Knight. And then Man of Steel, I thought was really fucking good.
Yeah.
And after that, like Batman v Superman, I remember just like not being it. And then that first Justice League movie, I haven't seen
me either. The 4 hour one.
I haven't seen the 4 hour one.
The Snyder cut.
The initial Justice League movie was like not doing it for me.
Wonder
Woman was okay. Aquaman was okay.
I wasn't enthused about watching the 4 hour one after the 2.5 hour one wasn't good. I was like, why would I give this an extra hour and a half? It already.
I heard it's way better, but I haven't seen it.
It is to a point, but I'm just
maybe one day we'll do a Discord session where we actually watch the Snyder cut. That would be a lot better, I think. If we if you guys are down to watch it for 4 hours straight, with our our little group. I'm down, Kenny, to do that because that's the only way I'm going to watch it. I can't watch it alone. There's no way. I'll be on my phone. I already know myself.
It has to be some type of alcohol for me.
There has to be a break. There has to be like a the 2 hour mark. I need like a 2 hour intermission. You know how back in the day the Titanic used to come on and it used to have a little intermission. Sorry, intermission. I definitely need an intermission after 2 hours to just like bathroom, maybe grab a snack, just something.
I'm gonna take your word for it. I always went to sleep when that movie came on because James Cameron's a terrible director.
Yeah, so you probably just missed.
He did make Terminator 2. I just super hate on that Avatar movie, and I also super hate on
Oh God, The Way of the Water. Jesus fucking Christ.
I still haven't seen it. Now it's free. It's free to watch on HBO, and I still haven't seen it.
I sat through all that, and I was just like, "What the fuck? This movie could have been over an hour ago."
Yeah, but Terminator in general is dope. I mean, even all the other Terminators that are just nonsense, they're still fun.
Yeah, I was about to say there are some nonsense. I'm glad you put it just like that. There are some nonsense Terminators, bro.
Not the Christian Bale one. The Christian Bale one was unwatchable.
Is that like the newest one or something?
No, that one came out like 10 years ago. That's when he like raged on set and just like
okay.
Cursed out the director and like put hands on him.
That's awesome.
I did hear about that. Well, okay.
He was Batman, so I thank you for being Batman, and I think that part.
Yeah. For the Batman episode that we'll do, Kim, I want to bring you back on. It seems like you have a good amount of information just on Batman and like the different ones that have played him. I also have you seen The Flash yet, Cam?
I'm gonna see it probably this weekend.
Okay, so I think one of the coolest things about it, and you guys probably noticed already, is that like a lot of it does focus around different Batman. That is like a thing about it.
That got rumored like years ago.
Yeah. So
because this movie got delayed for a long time.
It did because Ezra's a nut job.
Yeah.
So I will say, once you guys have both seen The Flash, maybe we could do that again. Like we can get together to do The Flash, and then we could get together to do the Batman episode as well, where we focus on the Dark Knight and that trilogy, but then also talk about the other older ones, Jack Nicholson and Val Kilmer, all that stuff. It would be cool to just discuss that. And yeah,
beforehand, I would love for y'all to watch Jack Nicholson's interviews about being a Joker. He really goes really in depth. It's just like talking about the mantle's a curse, and
shit.
Should be that he talks about like it being a curse that he had like go back from it, and why Heath Ledger might have died from being the Joker,
like being such a method actor.
How he feels the role was cursed, and he perceived it, and then how Jack Nicholson basically became like a billionaire, just like taking the optional deal of just like, I'll take this, but I'll have royalties over this character for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
he basically did it ruined my memory. The kid that plays Simba, he was Disney originally offered him like $1 million.
Oh wow,
I didn't know that.
I'll take $100,000 in royalties on Lion King for the rest of my life, and he basically like $1 million.
I did not know that. What a fucking genius!
Yeah, that's insane.
He's not a genius. His mom is a genius. His mom,
whoever came up with that, yeah.
His mom was just awesome. Like, give me $100K and give me royalties on Lion King. And
that's fucking awesome.
The rest of his life, over $2 million, and you're like 10.
Yeah,
like I give you $2 million right now. They're saying, "I can't wait to be king," and Hakuna Matata and stuff like that. But he's singing those roles because originally Jonathan Taylor, the guy from Home Improvement, was Simba's voice. So he only had to sing 2 songs for $2 million in the 90s. Of course, anybody would take that, but his mom was just like, "Give me $100K and royalties to Lion King."
That mom is an absolute G.
Yeah, the royalty game is no joke, especially the older royalty game, because now everything is like, crazy. Inflation has dwarfed the American dollar, but
it's crazy. And Jack was like, "Just give me royalties to the Joker."
Yeah, royalties to the Joker sounds wild. I did not know that was even a thing. Like, I now want to definitely see that interview you're talking about, because I genuinely had no idea.
Put it in the chat. He talks about the curse of being a Joker, and then
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Joker he's a fucking vicious character. One day, we've never done any episodes on comic books. I'd love to do an episode on like death of the family arc, because I thought the Joker was fucking awesome in that arc. Of Batman.
That is probably one of the few times I cried reading the comic book, because how emotional it was. It was just like it's just peak.
It was so fucking good. I couldn't stop reading it. And
if you get a chance, look up Scott Snyder and his Batman run. So it'll be Quarter Owls, not the movie, at that anime movie, it was
Dude, Court of the Owls. Yeah.
read the comic book Court of Owls, Death of the Family. You could even read Zero Year for when the Riddler was just OP and just out for blood, and then you could also read the other one is Death of the Family.
Yeah. Well,
there's two Death of the Families. It's the first one and then the other one. And then also the last one you could read where he just like bankrupt Batman. He's like, all right, you're broke. I took all your money.
I love the one Court of the Owls. I think that's like the start of the New 52 into the Death of the Family arc. Like that whole thing together is fucking incredible. So I'm super down to do that one day. And then as a quick side note, because I think we're about to get out of here, Cam, I wanted to ask real quick, going back to Into the Spider or Across the Spider-Verse, do you know if the backstory they gave Gwen in this movie, is that her backstory in the comic books, or is that just like movie shit?
It's the same backstory. It's
So like Peter Parker becomes Lizard Man, like, oh shit.
You know, all that other stuff. All that is pretty accurate to the story, even to your costume and
that's awesome.
That it got pretty wonky after all that, but it's expected. So
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm ready to wrap this up, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Before we get out of here, we definitely have to give a shout out to everyone on our Patreon. There's over 50 of you, so I'm just going to grab this list real quick. We have, I already see a name change. And it is, I'm probably gonna laugh a little bit either internally or externally every time I see this. But we got Connie, and then we have Ronathan. And I just can't deal. That name is so fucking fake. But if you watch the Volvi documentary that I sent you guys in the Discord, that shit is unhinged, and no one's name is fucking Ronathan. So immediately, as soon as I saw that name change, I started laughing because that is just, it is too much. But yeah, Connie, Ronathan, Leon, Rogan Tier 2 aren't bad. They just aren't great. Garen Williams, Xavier Swift, Hylian, Dimitri Barnes, Meow, Dominic Roberts, Javalian Valos, Alex Flamer, Andre Reynolds, Dan Vrabel, First to Home, Estat Akuma, Mitchell Nels, Midwest Gaming, William Shapiro, Dimitri Safirdas, Vince Marquette, Dallas Bailey, Roz Weiss, Nick Stango, Hanzo, our two-time national champion, Ka-chan is a poorly written character, Sarah Maria, Sunny, Top Cut Podcast, Alex Ahern, Philip Campa, Chris Lynn, Wookie 159, Edison Club, Kyle Batelho, Brandon Moore, Sugal, Nick, Mr. Soultide, Nafa, Corey Fowler, Omar Ramos, Elijah Barfold, and then
True Hero, Tyler Tadeo, Majora X, Anthony, Matt Glenny, Big Stinky. Ronathan is not a real name. Is that somebody?
Wait, what? I don't even see that.
Yeah, right here. It's the next after Big Stinky. It's Ronathan is not a real name.
Hey, yo.
Crazy.
And then we have Duty Booty, Adam Corey, and Rage Peacock, Leo, Janitor 215, JX, and Thomas Rude.
Oh, thank you guys so much for being subscribed to the Patreon. We will be doing an exclusive episode for the month of June. Not showing the topic yet, so if you want, please, if you're in the Discord, go into the podcast suggestions channel and leave us a couple of ideas that could be used for the exclusive episode for the month of June. As long as it's within reason, we'll definitely consider it. But yeah, as always, guys, thank you so much. And Cam, do you want to give any shout outs as well? Give out your socials and all of your places that they can find you?
Of course. Blur Cartel. You can follow us on Facebook, IG, YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, TikTok, Twitch. All that. We need to start a Patreon too. And
definitely should start a Patreon.
Yeah, I despise Discord, but I'm gonna try. Roundtable tomorrow, 8 p.m. Roundtable. We're gonna do kind of almost like a fuck, marry, kill, but we're gonna switch it to like skip. So you're gonna take 3 options. You take the options you want to take. You two are always welcome if y'all want to come on any of the episodes. I know the last episode we did do was a kind of a tournament type of thing for theme songs, but yeah, anytime y'all want to jump on, let me know. We'll fit you in. So we're gonna take things from anime, comics, movies, Pixar, MCU, albums. We're just gonna take a bunch of 3 things. You tell us what you love. Tell us what you will recommend, and then tell us what you just skip. We're gonna get that out of here. So yeah, we're gonna do that tomorrow, 8 p.m. Happy to be on here. Thank you for calling me back on.
Yeah, this was great. I genuinely enjoyed this. I mean, you are the amazing Spider Cam, so I know for sure that this is a topic that you're well versed in, and you know stuff that we don't know about it. So it was good having you on. But all right, until the next time, guys, we are gonna get out of here. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Oh, as I always say, Do the things that make you happy, including enjoying probably the best Spider-Man movie next to No Way Home. It's between those two. I don't know which one is which. And honestly, I don't even care to rank them because when it's just that good, I think that ranking things becomes a little weird anyway. Like when something is just S tier, it's like, why are we debating with S tier? Like Dark Arm or Christie, like who gives a fuck? They're both insane once they hit the field. Like, why are we doing this? So that's how I feel. But yeah, do the things that make you happy. We're out.